नंद बाबा जी को जया हो राखो राम है कन्हैया। ओ नंदा बाबा जी को छैया बाबू नाम है कन्हैया। कन्हैया कन्हैया रे ओ करो भेड़ को पिलैया आयो आयो दे पिलैया। कन्हैया कन्हैया रे ओ नंदा बाबा जी को छैया बाबू नाम है कन्हैया। कन्हैया कन्हैया रे हो
Good evening, TNT family. Welcome back to Yellow is the Code on UNC USA. I have my friend here, Mr. Suman Singh, and as usual, my other friends will come along later on in the program. Let's see, I have one more person here. Okay. Welcome, Dr. Ramroop is in the house, so we on we on the get go ready for them.
Hi
Yes,
guys.
Hi, Doc.
welcome. I was just making a special contribution there to Marvin Gonzalez and all those who, have a ethnic problem in Trinidad and Tobago and not focus on efficiency and running a government for the benefit of all our people in the country. So, Dr. Rambo, in case you missed that one, I want to give you one more.
नंद बाबा जी को जया हो
Dr. Ashwin in the house.
Yeah, hello.
राखो राम है कन्हैया।
We just giving a little tune up here.
ओ नंदा बाबा जी को छैया बाबू नाम है कन्हैया। कन्हैया कन्हैया रे ओ करो भेड़ को पिलैया आयो आयो दे पिलैया। कन्हैया कन्हैया रे ओ नंदा बाबा जी को छैया बाबू नाम है कन्हैया। कन्हैया कन्हैया रे हो
So, welcome back to Yellow is the Code, gentlemen. Thank you for taking your time to join us here tonight. And as of now, we are under a state of emergency in Trinidad and Tobago.
Correct.
And, we'd like to get your input on the situation taking place there far as you see, how it's being handled and stuff like that. So I want to welcome you back to Yellow Decode, Dr. Ramroop, Stephen Ramroop, Dr. Ashwin Maharaj, and Mr. Suman Singh. So, gentlemen, welcome to the program. I would like to hear your views on what's taking place in TNT.
If I may kick off, good evening to all our viewing listeners and so on the various platforms. Gary, I was reading about this thing, the state of emergency, and I think it was a preemptive move by the UNC to, call this SOE in motion. Remember, it's just a state of emergency. It's not a curfew. So people are free to go around their daily activities um, along with emergency measures. So I think it was a preemptive. Remember last week I mentioned the fact that the leader of the opposition, Penny and them, was touting the fact that if these CPEP employees are not re-employed immediately, as well as the URP employees, you will see a crime surge. And they threatened the government with that literally. And here is what we see that the UNC is taking preemptive measures to make sure nothing escalates beyond. So that was my take when I read about the SOE yesterday and so on. I don't know if the other members have different views, so let me know.
Dr. Abub, Dr. Maraj, you want to add anything to this point? Dr. Maraj, you hearing us?
I'm not hearing enough, really. Hardly hearing.
You're hardly hearing. How about you, Dr. Rambo? Are you hearing me?
Yes, I'm hearing.
There might be something on Dr. Marajan,
No,
I can't hear much, Gary. So I'll listen for a while. Let me see if it get better.
I think your volume is a little low, Gary, so you might wish to bump it up a little bit.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, yesterday, I went to the July 4th celebration, the anniversary of the United States at the Hyatt, and I saw quite a lot of police presence along the way, which is good. I hope that it always is like that driving on the highway, because I think it's a very good thing that we would have on our main highways a sort of police presence, especially at crucial times during the day. So if they want to tackle crime, it has to be at all aspects of crime, especially people driving badly on the roads. We had one driver. My son was even saying when he was coming back with our little grandchild in the car, the guy was dangerously driving in and out of the traffic, and the way he was swerving in and out, there's a law in Trinidad called dangerous driving. And if hopefully, with all the presents I saw going up, I was hoping that somebody would be able to track that vehicle and pull him aside lower down and arrest him, because he could have put a lot of people's lives at risk. And look at, I see yesterday, I think it was Friday night, there's a couple that died on yesterday. I think it's just today. There's a couple that died in a Valencia crash. I saw it on the television earlier today.
There's this lady from Caroni.
Yes.
Yeah. So, crime is committed all over, all types of crime. And so whilst they're doing the SOE, which I think is a good tool, and they had to, obviously, we all knew that, the Joint Threat Assessment Group was, at least reinitiated under a high security, under the National Security Council's purview. And the Joint Threat Assessment Group is a team of intelligence officers that comes from different areas that advises the National Security Council. So it was good that if such a decision was made, that it would have been made in a very good, for a very good reason. So I applaud that. In fact, at the anniversary celebration, I had the opportunity to meet and greet, of course, at that function and similar functions. You can't really talk to the ministers, but I did meet, starting with the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Sean Peters, who gave the address on behalf of the government of Trinidad and Tobago. I met Dr. Lakram Bodo. I met Dr. Dowlat. I even met Justice C. Prasad. All of them greeted me very, very graciously. I met up with some of the other ministers, Wayne Sturge, David Lee, even Alexander, Philip Alexander. He was the best. He was very jovial and friendly, and mixed with the crowd a lot. So it was a very good first time I've seen them since we won the election. So I expressed my sincere congratulations to all of the ministers.
Yes.
It was nice seeing them for the first time since I met them. In fact, all of them recognized me, including Peter Kanhai. I spoke to Peter Kanhai. Hey, how are you doing? And I said, hey, I hope you're not vexed with me. But he said he was very busy. I said, okay, that's fine. I even met with Eli, Minister of Transport, Zaku. He's a nice man. I met with him. First time I met with him was when we were doing the Prime Minister's children's Christmas treat throughout the country. And we were giving out the toys in every nook and cranny of Trinidad and Tobago. So he was a very, very, very much involved in that exercise. So I think the SOE was it had to be done, and what I'm just saying when I'm looking at when we saw the little drivers driving very badly coming down the road yesterday, is that whilst that is happening and there's police presence, there needs to be we need to take control of those highways, and I'm hoping that one of the things that I didn't talk to any of the ministers, but I'm hoping that I met them now and I just remind them as we go along with this program, some of the things that we would definitely like to see on the highways especially is proper lighting when it comes to some of those intersections, because all of those ramps, they were very poorly lit, some of them. So I think that one of the things we have to do to save lives and to prevent some accidents would be to light up our intersections. The second thing that I find very poorly done coming down the road when we were driving, besides the guy who probably wasn't apprehended, although there was so much police around, was the guys, when you're driving in some developed countries, you see these signs, these warning signs, 500 meters, 250 meters, 100 meters, 50 meters ahead of a construction site or a little detour site, yeah? And
Right.
you don't see those signs immediately just before you reach those dangerous where the road changes because of construction or other. That is something that I think they really have to really do properly, because the change of speed in some persons who are not who don't appreciate that this is happening, right? It does. In fact, I think about a month ago, a lady lost her life in that little area just before Gasperlo, where the road is actually it's caving pretty badly, and there was a big crane that was doing some work, and I think the light affected the person's eye because of the work, and she ran off the road and struck something and died on the spot. So again, if there were warning signals, 500 meters, 400 meters, 300 meters, 200 meters, 100 meters, 50 meters before, and the vehicles were given proper warning, right? That lady might have been alive today. In the past, we had police officers who were killed, right, on the scene of these constructions, especially. And this is one of the reasons, because the slowing down needs to be graded and it needs to be controlled. So, I mean, I'm hoping that some of these things are, put in place now that we are in power, because, I mean, for the past 10 years, I, for one, have been writing letters to the Minister of Works, as well as to the ministry. The problem with Trinidad and Tobago is we don't have a Department of Public Safety or a Ministry of Public Safety. Now, public safety falls under the purview of Ministry of National Security, and I guess it will come under Homeland Security. But the problem is that because you have the traffic wardens and the transport commissioners coming under Ministry of Transport, right? Then you have municipal police under the Ministry of Local Government. And you have public health The Public Health Inspectorate is under the Ministry of Local Government, but you also have public health inspectors under the Ministry of Health. You see, you have OSH under a different ministry. I think it comes under Public Utilities this year. I think is Minister Barry Padarat. So when you look at EMA, I think also comes under. I'm not sure which ministry. Maybe somebody might know, but again, it falls under a different ministry, right? Fire services, right? One of the prime first responders of public safety comes under Homeland Security. ODPM comes under Homeland Security. So that public safety, that is the whole protection of the security and safety of persons in terms of not crime, but other aspects, right, is sort of spread over many ministries. So, for example, one of the biggest epidemiological problem that we have in Trinidad and Tobago is motor vehicle collisions, falls in the elderly, which is a universal problem. Yeah, falls due to defective equipment, machinery, poor home construction of homes, and all of these things. So, although it doesn't come under the topic of SOE, so to speak, I'm talking about the general umbrella of public safety. And although this guy was driving badly, didn't commit a crime, so to speak, which I think he did under our laws. He was dangerously driving. I think it's an arrestable offense, if I remember correctly. Right? That is some of the things that we want to see enforced. And the more that we see these road problems enforced, we would see a lesser incidence of motor vehicle collisions. You see, like driving through stoplights. I think Ian Allen posted a video where two vehicles crossed the red line, and there was a police vehicle which he pointed just behind him, which didn't run them down because clearly they didn't have the speed. The vehicle was a pickup, if I remember correctly, right, or SUV. I'm not sure which one, but clearly they would not have been able to race to find those guys. But if we have police along the route, and I know for the SOE we did see some coming up, that they would have been able to pull over that vehicle somewhere lower down, right? And again, that those persons who broke the stoplight, well, they should have been charged, right? Or ticketed at least. So yeah, that's just my thing. I think it was a good thing that they had the SOE. I think it's a good thing that it is there. I think that will give them the legal opportunity to apprehend some of these people. I think these persons are like terrorists. And I think if you incorporate the terrorist legislation that we have, I think moving them from the side that they are in right now, some of the gang leaders, right, to back to the jail, it doesn't serve the country any purpose. And legally, I don't think it could be challenged. But again, we'll wait and see, because I think the attorneys are going back to court, from what I heard today in the news, the 7:00 news.
Yes, and to enforce that, cameras at major intersections is a must. These things have to be working, and red light warnings and so on. Apparently, a lot of people knows where the cameras, at what stoplights cameras are there, which one is working and which one is not working. Last time I was in Trinidad, and I was, taking a vehicle from home to the airport. The guy is telling me, "Oh no, I can break this red light. The camera here is not working," and so on. So how come people knows which camera is working at which light?
Yeah, cameras are good, Mr. Suman, but are you hearing me clearly? Hello? You guys hear me?
Yes. In a case like this, Gary, cameras...
No, but what I'm saying there, but cameras are good, but cameras don't chase down nobody. So
No,
we was given 200 motorbikes by China to the TTPS, and I'm yet to see full mobilization of those motorcycles out there. We are not strategically deployed to intercept. If the police is strategically deployed, they won't have to chase anybody too far,
Yeah.
So you need to put things in a good position that you're able to intercept. You know, so the cameras, I support the cameras, yes, but it also has to work, you know, in collaboration with those on patrol, so the cameras can feed, say, the command center, like to the officer on the ground on patrol. You know, so that could work in in collaboration with that.
Well,
But we do need to get the police out there on patrol and to be consistent.
yeah, that's correct. But the cameras at least will pick up the number plate of the vehicle.
Yeah, well, I mean, the cameras works in collaboration with, that's if you have your command center running.
Yes, and in tandem with the ground policemen either on motorbikes or vehicles and so
So
on. It has
I
to
don't
be.
know why it's taken us 100 years for we to get our act together, because this is ancient history now in some countries. I mean, our ministers travel, on both sides of the political end, and there seems to be a very lackadaisical, how to say,
Approach. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
approach to implement these things. This is something that we should have done, have that already up and running. So Dr. Ramrup is big on in NOC, and I mean, the command center, we definitely have to have this kind of thing going on.
And this is one of the low-hanging fruits, Gary. So this should not take a long time to be.
Yeah, I don't see no rocket science. The only science is the technological part for the IT technician, but what has to be done is common sense.
Yes, thoroughly agreed. Some things are lacking, something are lazing along, something are happening at its own time. I don't know if they intend to roll out a comprehensive, security plan. That
But
is
one thing I do commend the police commissioner here is that I was watching him, and he seemed to be taking the lead on this.
well, that's what
And
we need.
that's what I am a little bit impressed. I want to see how he moves.
That is needed. Someone to take charge and say, yes, the responsibility is mine. Let me do what I have to do. Run the police force like a business, as Dr. Ramup has mentioned before. You need to account and see what is being done, what is the strat plan. You don't have to tell everybody what is your plan, no. But let the metrics, then numbers show.
No, one thing that concerns me very much is the media ran and posted the location of the extracted prisoners and their relocation, and
Yes.
I don't know what business of the media was to push that idea. So we will have to get to that at a certain point. But I want to commend the police for the job that they're doing so far.
Yeah, these things should be sensitive information and only be released or known to a few persons only. How come the media is so proactive in this and was never proactive in the past
I'm
10
concerned
years?
about the media's agenda. Whose
Yeah.
side are they really on? Because like the police commissioner said, we live with a syndicated operation here. It's a crime syndicate. People inside, people outside, and you see some people, and they wonder where they get the money to afford the lawyer, right? So they know they have to be part of something. Somebody's sponsoring that. Go ahead.
Yeah, what I'm saying, the media was pipped. Their voices were pipped along these lines for the past 10 years. They knew nothing. They did no investigative reporting, but they have the ability to do it, as you can see from the headlines today. How they knew exactly that the hardened criminals had gone to Stobbles Bay and in the regiment, area there. So how come they're so quick to jump on that? And they were never able to question what the PNM was doing. They were not able to question about the contracts, the CPEP contracts and the URP contracts, and over 90% of them were held in PNM areas. And somehow they never brought that to bear.
Yeah, one of the things that I must say right, is that I'm very, very impressed. I'm happy that the police officers, under the leadership of the new commissioner, have been. I see they killed a car thief.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
recently, and I think he sent a message. Please don't try to confront the police officers because we are going to use force, especially in areas where our officers or innocent bystanders are going to be affected by that crime or criminal intent. So these are some of the messaging. Now, on that note, when you have something like a business, right? I know that, for example, when we had some emergencies in terms of when I was the CEO of the ODPM, we had some very bad weather up on the north coast. We had some flooding in some areas of the east coast. And what we will do as a team is we will bring in the key stakeholders very quickly, right? Some of them, took the calls virtually, and we were able to run what was called like a tabletop exercise, right? This tabletop exercise looked at the consequence management of the event and what would be some of the risks that we would face. A sort of risk-based approach to implementing a program. And this is the way that management and good CEOs, I'm not saying that I'm a good CEO, but that is what a team that is set up to do something would do. They will look at the consequences and manage them. So if you are going to plan a SOE, which had to be, of course, urgent or emergent, you would have met with your key people. You would have looked at all the consequences, and you would have identified some of the risks that we have now. If you look at United States media, right, US media, even Canadian media, if you look at some of the television stations in France, in China, right, and you look at some of the foreign TV stations like Al Jazeera, right, BBC, you will see that the reporters are becoming more and more involved in getting information to the public, whether that information is
Breaking
sensitive.
news. Breaking news. We don't have a good breaking news system there at all up to now.
Right. So what is happening is that in Trinidad, one of the risks of when you're doing your tabletop exercise, you would have to consider the media as a big risk, right? It will be an item on the table. And out of that is almost like an algorithm, right? That Sumant will talk about, is that when you put out your algorithm now as to what is going to happen if media comes in, are they going to ask you for the site? Are they going to investigate the site? Are they going to, and then what is the consequence of that when they publish it or when they're not? And when they publish it, what are we going to do? Are we going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? So you see, this is where if you run it like a business, right, and you have the necessary steps that you are going to announce, let us say you're going to announce something at 8 o'clock in the morning or 6 o'clock in the night or at midnight, yes, it means that before you do that, right, you have to sit down with all your key stakeholders and say, okay, military, we want to have you involved and place you at X, Y, and Z. Okay, police, Northern Branch, Southern Branch, all of you all are on alert. They got the alert. They know that it was going to happen. What is your state argument? I remember when Gary Griffith was there, we talked about the state of alert of a country, right? What was it? Was it red or yellow, whatever? Each procedure or tactical maneuver is based on a stage in which the country's position is in the alert system. Are we red? Are we yellow? Are we DEFCON, etc.? If you know what I mean, yes. Mm-hmm. So there are certain levels of alert that the police stations, the fire services, all emergency services, military, and I think by now that the ministers would have or should have met with the private security firms and developed a clear policy as to what is happening with the engagement with private security, because this is a realm that exists within Trinidad and Tobago that you have to manage properly, because quite a lot of security companies have to be brought under proper control as to whom they hire, what are the criteria for hiring, etc. And they must be very stringent for them to be affiliated with the police service. I think they have to review this whole network of private security providers, because quite a lot of good security is being done at our malls and our institutions that are in private areas, or schools, some of the private residences, etc., villages, towns. But you have to be very careful, right? Because if you're going to say, well, this is amalgamated or allied or whatever security company, that when they come into the fray and they are registered and they are given permission by the police service, by the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, right? A certificate of, something has to be done that allows the submissions by the security company to be vetted, and there should be some degree of, confirmation and due diligence in terms of security companies. Because I think that is a big asset, right, when it comes to dealing with crime throughout the country. The municipal police as well, I think that although they fall under a different ministry, I think also in terms of coming together at that meeting that I'm talking about, doing the tabletop exercise, right, there's a role for municipal police in terms of the whole national security responsibility that you have during a state of emergency and beyond. After the state of emergency, life must goes on. But I think that if you are able to do the tabletop exercise, right, create what we call the measles, like if in the military we create these little scenarios, and then we tax everybody's brain as to what will happen if this scenario unfolds, and then you document what we could do in the event that this scenario does occur, such as the media, such as the attorney, such as the legislative response, etc., and what are you going to do, and whom are you going to get to deal with it, and who is going to speak on this, blah blah blah. So this is the consequence management I'm talking about, and this is where management of an event becomes very, very, very important. So I'm not saying that it wasn't done. I'm hoping that it was, because that is what we want to see going forward. We don't want to hear that you start something, you say, okay, I announce a state of emergency, and you haven't had these preparations before. It doesn't take long. It doesn't have to be a whole day, but at least it has to be done, right, to get everybody in a state of readiness, especially our security and our judiciary, right, and our executive, so that everybody, right, takes appropriate precautions during that, before the event is even announced. And this is the kind of thing that I'm talking about. Continuity of government protocols, right? Hope you have, your bunkers, if you have any in Trinidad. I don't even know if you have a safe place, but the persons who are responsible for that, right, have they been checked? Have they been checked to see if there's adequate water, if the generator is working, if the fences are up and running, if the pesticide control came and did all the pest control, if the food that is stored there has been replaced, if the MREs are up to date, these are some of the things that I'm saying. These are some of the little ticks that you have to tick all around before you say, okay, I'm going to do X, and I'm hoping this is the kind of planning that occurs going forward. I mean, I'm not in it, but I expect these are the things that should be going on.
Yes, you must have a complete checklist as you go along, to tick the boxes. And I firmly believe in that, but more so, when you call a state of emergency, for example, you need to have, what are you trying to accomplish in this state of emergency? What is the outcome really? And if, for that, you have to set up your measurement. What are you going to measure to make sure that at the end of it, you can say that this SOE was successful or not? This is the way. Again, it comes back to your data, and data should drive the process. Has crimes been reduced? Home invasions have stopped. What used to be and what is it? So you benchmark against a certain criminal activity, and you see whether it has risen or fallen. So you can say with some certainty at the end of the SOE that we have been able to stem the tide on this and that and so forth, on homicides and thefts and whatever criminal activity is involved. So you have to have some means of measuring your activity to ensure that you're hitting your outcomes on it, no?
Because hello, you can hear me? Hello?
Yes, Doc, we hear you.
Okay, good. Because I could hardly hear what you all are saying, but let me just say a few things, and I'll shut up and listen. So I did have something which I didn't submit to the commissioner yet, but it had three options in there. One was the Carnival model, as I told you all in the past. The second one was a third state of emergency, which I see they went for. And the third one was continue as is, which is the status quo. So the option was the second one, so that's fine. Because the problem is this: Trinidad is in a bad place. If I want to invest in Trinidad and you have a state of emergency, I would definitely hold and wait, because it doesn't tell investors anything positive. It is a bad situation. It sends a bad message, and capital flight will always be a problem when these things start to happen. So Trinidad is not a bad place. We know perhaps there's no other option, and this may be the best one. Maybe they had to. The intelligence says that they had to do it, and they're doing what they're doing. But they're in a bad place. This is not good. I think Sumant had into something that I wanted to talk about, which was a state of emergency is a temporary fix. It's a breathing space. It's a time to reflect, because something else would have happened which would have been worse than the SOE. So the SOE is preferred to what would have happened if not for the SOE. So it's a defense mechanism. It is not a solution. When they are done with all of this, you cannot have a SOE forever, because that will be another pandemic again. So you have to deal with this thing in a very mature manner, and they have to have good intelligence, and they have to make it sure that whatever I think someone also mentioned that the objective, you have to know what your objective is. And I guess it seemed like kind of laid out, because it seemed as though if they didn't do this, something terrible was going to happen. So we take that as the solution for the time being. But Trinidad is in a bad place. It is not economically good. They have a budget coming up. They have all kinds of issues in the midst of a state of emergency. And the other side would not help them very much, because the other side is talking about affirmative action. I don't know when they will start telling us, I must have started already, but that you're locking up the so-called bad boys, and what about the men who behind it? What about the kingpin and everything behind it? They find all kind of excuse that is not helping the situation. So I don't want to talk about them really. Although just one thing I would say is this: the People's National Movement, the leadership must call out some of the speakers who are saying bad things about Trinidad. They must handle the leadership in particular must handle the wayward, uncontrolled members who are issuing bad things about Trinidad, and it's not going to take us very far. In fact, it will cause things to happen, like even more state of emergency, because this is not helping. So, and I hope that the PNM leadership will speak to the members, and tell them shut up and don't make the situation worse, because you'll be blamed for that. So that's something that I hope they will take care of. But in the meantime, we still have to deal with this SOE that was kind of entrusted on us, forced on us really, from what the government is saying and the security services. So I'm worried about the capital flight. I'm worried about the foreign direct investment. I'm worried about India, who's promising to come in, and when there's a state of emergency, they could say, oh, no, that won't affect anybody. It will. It is not as usual. If it was usual, it would have been, they would not make such a big fuss. This is not something to take lightly. I hope this is the best solution or the best one of all the other solutions. This is the best, and as you're all aware, and I'm sure you all are in support of whatever action is taken by the government, because I scare myself what would have happened if they didn't do this. I hope the intelligence are sound and they really take it. This is the best that they can do. And I'm looking forward to normalcy to return as soon as possible. And I wish the country well. Thank you.
Yes, I will thoroughly agree with you, Dr. Maharaj. And I myself am concerned with the level of foreign direct investment coming into the countries, knowing or seeing that we have, turned the corner a little bit and was able to stabilize things. Not only that, a lot of capital flight people may try to think now, hey, you know what, my money is better outside than inside Trinidad, so let me take what I have and get out. But I don't think that is so much as an issue now, given the change of administration, one, and the large support that has been entrusted upon the UNC. The population at least feels a little bit more comfortable that this government can get a handle on things.
Well,
But
you have to keep in mind what the state of the emergency
what the
does, creates
objective,
an
yes,
opportunity.
yes, you're correct. But again, I don't know if you all know or remember the last time, the one they had, the SOE that they had earlier this year.
Well,
No,
that was under the useless PNM, obviously, so there can't be no comparison. Because
yes,
we have, the police have arrested 56
today,
people, recovered 6 illegal firearms, detected more than 400 traffic offenses during the first 24 hours of the state of emergency. But the fact that the state of emergency gives you the authority to enter premises without a warrant and conduct
warrants,
searches
yes.
without a warrant, you have freed up the law enforcement to conduct the job, and hopefully they conduct it in a respective manner that they don't cause more problems than they resolve. So these are their conduct and demeanor has a lot to do in getting the job done. You just can't go and beat up and smack up people just like that. You have to do it in a professional way.
And that's why I was saying you need to have the outcomes clearly defined, so that once you have you achieve that objective, you can get rid of the SOE at the shortest possible time. You don't want something like this to be lingering on and on and on. For example, I don't know if you recall at the last time how Tobago was affected. The whole winter season for the tourists was affected. And right now, again, with this SOE, British Airways is already on the card, emphasizing that Trinidad and Tobago has a state of emergency. How does that bode well for tourism in the island and so on? So they have to make sure.
It's increased security. See, the thing about it, it shows clearly that the government is taking action. If the government did nothing and allowed the situation to linger, where you got hits on judges and various people of the country that is being planned out and do not take any action, then that creates, I think it creates a bigger problem, because you're seeing a government that is not taking action. Now we see a government that's taking action to clean up the mess. So I support the state of emergency. I think the damages to the economy will be very minimum, because it will create a sense of safety and security, because you have extracted the threat from society. And the way they went about this is that they also extract the prisoners from the location that they had control. So they have cut off that control and put them under heavy security. And so I think they're on good grounds. I think I'm happy with the police commissioner so far. I got no complaints.
And that needs to go along with all these anti-jamming instruments at the jail. Where were these equipment?
Well,
why
was
was
the thing, I see more big talk than we actually have capabilities. To tell
Yeah.
you the truth.
why wasn't it functional, to say the least?
Don't you think it's deliberate? Don't you
Of
think they
course,
have
it
help?
is.
Okay.
Of course, it is deliberate. In fact, you can see today, one of the so-called high-risk individual is, they're already approaching the legal profession for trying to find out why they were moved from one location to the next. They want to go back,
Well,
but it takes
Justice
money.
Prasad rejected the request.
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know.
yeah. But tell you the clout that these fellas have, the clout, and that is why was the anti-German, what's it's called
Well,
X-rays or whatever it
as
is.
the commissioner said, right? When the reporter asked him about people within the national security infrastructure, they said, "Well, I mean, basically the reporter, the commissioner basically say, what do you think? Why we have to move them? So it's a syndicate, and the syndicate is organized by people from various structure. Whether it's in the justice system, whether it's the police, the army, whatever. So they're dealing with it.
Yeah, so it has to be, this momentum has to be, after the end of the SUE, has to be kept up. As Dr. Maharaj always said, let the carnival policing starts during and let it remain after this period as well. There should be no let up until they try to bring hold of the situation.
We have to maintain consistency, and that is what we fail to do. We have failed to supervise the force. We put on a big show for the public, or foreigners, and we really don't maintain, how we should proceed in being consistent with that.
Yes, I mean, it's a good preemptive move. That's what I said in the beginning, and they had good information why they needed to do this, but they need to do this quickly and keep up the momentum after this, and let it go from there.
Well, the question I have is, how do we, after you remove the state of emergency,
Uh-huh.
how do you? I mean, you eliminate the bigger threat, I guess, but the fact that when the police needs, we have to work, I guess, a little bit better with how the police gets permission to do searches and stuff like that. But that is something we will have to work for. And how do we keep the defense force engaged?
Yes, correct. That is
So
what.
that's where we need to work on the legislation, that you don't have to call any state an emergency to engage the defense force and all the necessary resources that they have. So I thought, the Homeland Security was formed in that aspect also, that's the direction we head in, where you have an inclusive agency, interagency agreement, and memorandum that you proceed, and you don't have to go to get permission every time there's an issue. You need to manage, and again, NOC is definitely an essential thing to have here, where you have all resources in collaboration with each other.
Yeah, and intelligence sharing and so on to be part of this. But it comes back to the age-old question: is where are the forensics and so on? Are these things in place? Where are the court systems? Are these things in place? Things that will be part of the overarching structure. So when you catch a criminal, you can put him away right away. You don't want to be lingering for 15 years at the state's expense. The state had to mine him for so long, providing food and all these other things for him or her, as the case may be. The justice, in other words, should be swift. That's my take on it. Any?
Dr. Maharaj, Dr. Ramroop?
No, I didn't get a chance to. I don't know what the latest news is. I'm a little handicapped these days in terms of. I don't know what went on today. I had a glimpse of the news yesterday. Gary sent some stuff today. I saw most of the stuff he sent. But I always like to look at the editorial to see what these guys are saying. So I didn't have that opportunity today. I don't know if Gary sent any papers today. I don't think so. But so I don't know what went on today. If anything strange happened today, anything different, I don't know. I heard Gary talk about some 56 traffic. Forget the traffic talk. How much crime to stop and how much crime is traffic is fine. That ticket agent job. I don't want to hear about that. Let's talk about how much guns you collect, how much life you save, how much invasion you stop. That's what I want to hear. Those hard concrete data, and they have to have a metric. They have to give us the metric on what is the outcome of this brave, maybe tactical move. Because just a SOE is not done. The PNM does those kind of things. They do a lot of things for sure. But if the UNC don't do those kinds of things, and the opposition, let me tell you something, the opposition, the current government is held to a higher standard. Because the thing the PNM could get away with, the UNC will never be able to get away with that. So the guard is stacked against them. The UNC must be aware of that, and they must have that behind the head anyway. All ministers and all members of the UNC and maybe all of Trinidad, especially the non-PNM Trinidad people, should have that in mind, that the UNC is held to a higher standard than the PNM. They could get away with a lot of stuff with it. You can't. You won't be able to. You'll see the simplest mistake one of them make. You'll see how they drive it up the mountain. That's what I just said. I hope you all heard when I said that the leadership of the PNM must call the members out when they're talking outlandish things. You know what they were saying, and they're going to say some more stuff coming up just now, especially when they look at the sociological data from members who are being arrested and held on without charges. So they'll be making that a mountain of a molehill just now, because that's how they trade. That's how they trade. They trade in ignorance. So we got to be aware. But really, forget it. Traffic is fine. It's good. We could talk about traffic, but really, the measure has to be about crime. The problem that caused the solution to cause the SOE was because apparently something serious was going to happen, and therefore the government had no choice but to do what they did. Because they'll be asked those, the thing we're discussing tonight, the government will be asked those, whether in parliament or where else on the street, or those people who have the media, who have their own agenda in mind, they will be asking to themselves, you'll hear, as soon as they get a chance. And the government, I know most of them are very smart, but the government don't make any slip, because they won't get away with nothing. So let the experience of the knowledgeable ministers and the government answer, so that no one will caught them with any kind of stupidity that the opposition, call them PNM, media and those kinds of people. So they have to batten the crease. They have to be sure that they have a handle on things, that they have to make it, inform the population genuinely that this they had no other choice. Because like I said just now, your SOE is not an easy thing. It is not something to be taken lightly. It is the last resort. How many countries in the world have SOEs? Not many of them. What happened is that America will have an SOE because there's some kind of big flooding or something, but that's only for a little county or the district. So not even a whole state, very often not even a state. So it is very localized. In Trinidad, I don't know how localized it is, but I think it seems to be national. And I don't know if they have a problem or if they have no problem in Moruga. Why Moruga people couldn't be traveling in state of emergency, going to be in certain areas? I don't know. I just asking. I don't know. They know better than me. And I just figure what I'm settling for is that this was a great move, but there has to be metric. We have to know where we are. The people need to know where they are and what things are. And when will it say, what could it ever, we cannot say yet. This could go on for a dragon for a year, it could go on for a long time. But the people must be informed. You have to give them information and let them know where things are. You cannot divulge every little thing, but I mean, generally ballpark, you should be in it. So because they just came through a pandemic for many, they shut down the country in most cases, where they should not have, but they went and then shortly after had an SOE again, which they should not have, but they had, because the SOE didn't do necessarily very, very little. So this one that these are no nonsense government. They would have metrics measuring where they want to go and are we getting there or not. The opposition will say different things, but you don't worry with them. You do what you have to do and do it correctly. And if you level the people, they will train out. People are smart, they will understand. Like I started on saying, this is a bad situation. Trinidad is a bad place. The quicker we could come out of this, the better for us. No foreign investors would like to come in. No tourists. In fact, I don't know if it hit the airwaves already, but that would have been like in places like BBC and maybe some CNN, maybe carrying this. Because when there's some country declared state of emergency, for what reason? Because there was suspicion of some high level of criminalities that were threatening the peace and security of the Trinidad Republic. And that's when they phrase this like that, I would say, wait, boy, let's not get there, let's change. Let's not go there, let's go Grenada instead. Let's go maybe Jamaica. I don't know, we're not going to Trinidad, we're here in lots of things down there. We're not going. So this is bad business, but again, it's the best of all evils. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, go ahead.
As I'm saying that the first thing, whenever an SOE is announced, the news basically reaches the external environment in a very quick and short time.
Right.
And once that is the case, the first thing that is impacted is travel, air travel, sea travel, and so on.
Yeah.
That is the first impact.
The only difference is there is no curfew. That's the thing about it. There's no curfew. Nothing is restricted.
Right. No, that is no
that has to be
curfew. That
clarified.
is, but you see, for the tourists, that doesn't make a difference. To us, yes. To
But then you have to
locals,
clarify
yes.
to the tourists that they have additional security. That is what it is.
So for tourists, the headline is state of emergency in Trinidad and Tobago. But that is all that they see in the foreign environment. They don't understand it. Well, curfew, no curfew. That is immaterial to them. For the time they see headlines, state of emergency, to heck with that place. I ain't going there. There are other options for me to travel to. And this is what that is the headline act, you see. That is what they see. That is what is broadcasted. No. So it creates some negativity in the travel and tourism industry, definitely. I don't know if they can make an exception.
That's where our media team comes in to counterattack the negativity there, where we clarify the situation that there is no restriction on travel. We have to spell that out bold in ink, that this is no restriction. This is additional security. We are treating with a problem here. And this is beneficial. The SOE has created extra manpower on patrol. And the only people, as the commissioner said, the only people who have things to worry about is criminals.
Yes.
There is nothing affecting the business. Go on and have your good time. The commissioner clarified that. He said, go ahead and have your good time.
Yes, that's good, Gary. For the local community, that's nice. I mean, you're going along with your everyday normal activity, yes. But as I was saying, for a tourist, I mean, I don't want to go into a place when time in a state of emergency, it's something that turn me off right away from traveling there.
The government of Trinidad and Tobago.
Especially when I have other options. I want to come to the Caribbean. If I'm in Europe, I want to come to the Caribbean. Hey, there are so many islands as an alternative to Trinidad and Tobago. So,
what was that, Gary? The government of Trinidad, what? You want to play that, run that? Like it sounds like a foreign news, isn't it?
It was a news clipping. I was trying to remove it because we played that.
Okay.
Okay.
Let me see.
Yes. Well, in addition, if we can shift a little bit, I wanted to remark about the intervention in the health sector, which I don't know if, but I know Dr. Ramo will be keen on this. The collaboration with Apollo Hospitals of India to be part of the process, the healthcare process in Trinidad and Tobago, in a number of key specialty and subspecialty areas. One of the nice things we have been touting since has been the director of tourism in 2003. We've been trying to push the head of health and wellness tourism. It can never get off the ground for a number of reasons, which I have already indicated. And one of the main factors was health insurance. A lot of people traveling to Trinidad with other health insurance and so on will not cover the medical processes. So Apollo from India is taking all the insurances, health insurances, which people are covered with. In Trinidad, example, Guardian Health and Sagicor Health, as well as Clico. So all the local insurances, you can use your TT dollars to pay for these specialized operations. And this is definitely a good sign. So, and they offer payment plans and so should you not have the monies at one time, you can get your operations done and pay for it at a later time with some credit being offered. So that is definitely a good and outstanding initiative by the Ministry of Health if they get into some serious collaboration with the Apollo hospitals out of India.
Also the U.S. Military ship is going to be coming there, the medical hospitals.
Yeah, that comes from time to time.
Yeah, yearly, basically,
Yeah.
But that's a plus. But I think we're expecting great things with that Apollo hospital. Dr. Ramrup, you want to jump in here?
Well, yes, I mean, I know that Dr. Bodo and Dr. Richard are there so that it will clearly be done properly, without. I mean, there are political wins, but it's not just about that. We have had being a physician himself, or both of them, they would understand that there are going to be some some implications, right? Whenever we have any foreign interventions, there are problems that we have with the follow-up of these patients and the emergency care that arises out of the surgeries that are done either abroad or in Trinidad. And therefore, although you might have cardiac surgery done abroad, as you all know, there are complications of any operation, whether it's immediate, late, or delayed. And we have had in the past quite a lot of problems where, for example, a certain percentage of the free eye surgeries, a certain percentage of the free interventions that were done by foreigners when they come to Trinidad and they leave, and then the patients develop complications, which they do. This is one of the things as a surgeon myself, since I graduated from the Royal Colleges in 1990. Now over how many years of practice, we do have complications for almost every surgery, minor, some major. So I'm sure that those are the things that we would have to look at in terms of having, I would say, exchanges of persons, for example, professionals who, if we don't have the skills here, we would have to clearly ensure that we have the competencies and skills in Trinidad to deal with some of the complications that are associated with some of these interventions. As far as medical treatment and whatever, once you have the right medicines, it can be done here, but mostly surgical interventions, especially for the children, and also, of course, some of the take some of the load of the cardiac workload that we have right now. I think Apollo is talking about the heart surgeries and the care that you have. I know a couple of my colleagues, good friends of mine, who have gone to India to have heart surgery. And well, knock on wood, as they say, they have come back many years, over 10 years, and they have had few complications besides the normal, minor complications, which were treated by our local doctors. So yes, I'm very enthralled. I am very excited that the opportunities are coming. I am positive that with our team that the Honorable Prime Minister has chosen, especially with the medical team that we have now at the helm, that they will clearly look at, as I said, the consequences of bringing in or associating or engaging with any or all of these providers. The accreditation standards of the facilities, just looking at it, when I just looked at it, I didn't go into too much depth, and I haven't spoken to some of my colleagues who are in the UK or Europe, if they have had any problems with the group. But just looking at it, it seems to be a team of credible persons who are behind it. As I said, one of the most important things that we have to remember as a country is that we can be exploited for financial gains very easily when we are very susceptible and vulnerable. And we have to be very careful, because remember, a lot of the medical institutions abroad are for profit. Although you might find that there is some quality bottom lines, you would understand that most of these are funded by businessmen or others, and the bottom line is to make a profit. So we have to be very careful. Look at that. We also have to be very careful with our own cadre of physicians and surgeons who form part of the public service and the private sector, or medical boards, medical associations, etc. We should have some degree of engagement with them, because we have had problems in the past. I myself have been a medical director of San Fernando Hospital for over 3 years, and I know that we have had some problems with a particular group of army doctors who came down and did some eye surgery. So we had some complications when they left, and we had to deal with them ourselves because of the way that the type of surgery that was done. So again, these things happen. I'm not saying that it will, but I'm saying that it has to be taken care of and managed properly going forward. I fully support it. If asked to support it, I will definitely support it. If asked to cooperate and participate, I will definitely do that. If not just for what I just said, but also to ensure that there is a proper health care management protocols going forward, so that we can ensure the protection of our citizens or residents who happen to partake of that particular discipline. We have quite a very good health sector here. I mean, I myself am a doctor. I came out of the public service a few years ago, and we do have quite a good health sector. People might understand, but we do. But there are certain deficiencies, and I think that over the past 9 or 10 years, some of these deficiencies were not corrected to the level that we would have expected. One of them is pre-hospital care. And again, any program that involves getting persons ready to send them abroad for cardiac surgery involves getting the patients reasonably alive and their heart reasonably well to be transported out of the country for surgery. And that involves a good pre-hospital system. We talked about that. It involves good cardiac cats so that we can get them ready and save them, at least so that we can have the other doctors in abroad deal with them, or even some of our doctors, as I said, sent on exchange programs so they can actually go there and work with them, and some of their doctors can come here and work with us. This is the kind of thing I'm talking about, so that it doesn't have to be a total dependency on international assistance, but also I think it should be creating a pathway so that we ourselves can have those level of competencies as we go forward. Coming out of the Royal College of Surgeons of Edinburgh and Glasgow myself, we have a pretty high standard of postgraduate requirements as far as our medical board in terms of registration to practice in Trinidad and Tobago. Very high. Just like in Canada, I mean, I look at all the FRCS I have, I can't even practice in Canada at the level at which I would like to do in terms of surgery and whatever, because I have to go back and write all the basic examinations.
Yeah.
These are some of the things that we have to be very careful in terms of the qualifications and competence. I'm not saying that they don't exist. It's just that I'm saying that when you go forward, we won't want to have our citizens or residents be subjected to the level of competencies that are not optimal, if you understand what I'm saying, and that the accreditation standards of care that we would appreciate and have a high level for here, or even like in North America, in some of the countries of Europe, and that level of care is not afforded, right, to our people in those centers abroad. So we would have to have somebody to manage that engagement, to ensure that the standards of care are also up to par. So I'm just saying that with it, right? I am positive that the ministers will ensure so. But these are some of the things you asked me, so I'm just saying that, I don't want to be the devil's advocate, but I'm saying it's a good program. I support it. I would like to see it go forward, but it has to be managed properly, because we don't want to get into any sort of situation where we regret it going forward, because it turns out to be a money making thing, and some people die when they come home because they don't have good post-op care, and then just one case spoil the whole thing, if you know what I mean. And I mean, the probability of such is high because you're talking about cardiac surgery. So you mean, if you look at the data and statistics following very critical cardiac surgery, the mortality rate is high. And therefore, if you come back to Trinidad and you don't have a proper rehabilitation program for cardiac care, then it all fall down. You'll have a good triple bypass, quadruple bypass. But if your rehabilitation program, I mean, they're not going to be spending 6 months there in another country. But remember, it takes about 6 months for a good cardiac rehabilitation program, to get back the person back to some degree of fitness to perform his activities of social and occupational life. And therefore, I'm talking about having such a program in Trinidad so that when our people come back, they can enter in it. Right now, we don't have a very good cardiac program. Many people who do, I mean, I have a patient just last week who did a stent in a private hospital, and he had to rent a medical bed because when he came home in his ordinary bed, he was having a lot of problems, and that has not been taken care of. We talked about our retrofitting. I mean, I had to get a carpenter to go to the home of my friend and put in a ramp for him to go to the washroom and to get into his house from the garage. I mean, although he wasn't disabled, there are certain things that will have to go into rehabilitation. We don't have physiotherapy services for the public. People have appointments for like 3 months to 6 months to see a physiotherapist following surgery, right? Even a cesarean section, a number of the persons who come out having a cesarean section don't have good therapy and exercises for them to get back into their workplace, right? Legislation, concerning pregnant women or persons who have cesarean section going back to work, like in some of the developed countries, we don't have that, and people have to go back very soon, or else they lose their job. So I mean, there are a number of things that have to be put in place, right? So although you are going to be getting good surgery, right, you have to have the other aspects of care in that entire program. So yeah, it does. It is wonderful. And if I get in, I will be looking for these parameters. I'll be looking for the accreditation standards. I would ensure that the accreditation standards of the facilities of Apollo would be what we would expect for people. I would also hope that we could have some training in the rehabilitation programs for the cardiac care and other types of care that we will require. etc. There are certain times that certain patients would have to stay there, right? If you're doing bone marrow transplants, etc. For the children, for example, right? It requires another type of care for a very longer period. So we have to be very careful that all of these things are encrypted or at least prescribed and also made available when the patient is there. So yeah, these are some of the things that will definitely have to we'll have to look at.
I mean, do we still how to say we still have that health surcharge deduction, right, within our tax structure?
Yeah, we do. I'm sure Sumant will tell you that that really goes into a different budgetary place, so that the health sector itself don't get that money. I know that when
Yeah,
Fuad Khan was there, he was hoping to have the health insurance scheme put in. That didn't go too far because of the information coming out from all the statistics and data coming in from countries who have implemented the insurance system, right? If you look at Canada, for example, you look at the United States, and you look at the number of underinsured, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, people cannot, in terms of accessing healthcare. We saw that in the COVID, and it was one of the indicators, of a system that if you introduce a health insurance system in Trinidad, and you don't put the necessary management protocols and parameters in place, you could end up in trouble. So that's probably why he didn't go forward with it. But I think one of the things that I see one of the persons put in there about private versus public healthcare. I worked in the private sector. I also worked in the public sector. And one of the things about the private sector is that a lot of the doctors who work in the public sector work in the private sector as well. And this is sometimes a problem, but because sometimes they leave early from hospitals and they land up in the medical centers, and therefore you get access to specialized care in a private center more, but it is more costly. And I think that this is where we talked about in an earlier program, where it is very important for insurance companies in Trinidad and Tobago to have a sort of a standard when it comes to dealing with operation procedural costs. It's called the Common Procedural Terminology, CPT codes we use in the US. I'm sure you know about that, Suman.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
those common procedural terminology, CPT codes, based on an ICD-10 and beyond system, is that you code every single procedure, whether it comes from a guy setting up a drip in an institution, to doing an appendectomy, with a ruptured appendix, doing a cesarean section, and you nip the ureter, etc., right? So whatever it is, each one of those codes has a cost. So that, for example, if I go to Sinclair or West Shore and I do appendectomy, and I pay 5,000 for it there, when I do that appendectomy in the hospital, right, and 100 appendectomies are done in the hospital a week, it is the same cost of that healthcare in hospital that it will cost you in the private sector. So that 5,000 is what the insurance will accept as the claim, and the insurance will, based on different claim equations or mathematical solutions, right? They will pay, right? There's preferred payment system. There is a fixed payment system. So there are many payment systems that can be used. However, what I'm trying to say is that because of there is a big difference, and insurance companies, there are about 10 insurance companies that pay for surgeries. As a surgeon myself, I submitted bills for total hip replacements, total knee replacements, plating, screws, fixing key wires, ganglion removal. Right now, I submit claims for trigger point injections and small procedures. And the insurance companies, they don't pay the people. They take very long to pay. They don't pay them the full amount of reimbursement. And each insurance company gives different problems compared to the others. So a lot of those things would have to be sorted out. So in terms of the private sector, for example, let us say that they come back. Right now in the public service, you can't even get a physiotherapist appointment within sometimes 4 to 6 weeks, right? So you come back with your cardiac surgery from Apollo, right, in India, you have to get proper surgery, you have to get proper rehabilitation. You will obviously have to go to the private sector, and you'll have to go and see physiotherapists, on the outside. Again, now if you have your insurance claims and all this sort of thing, what is the kind of reimbursement you'll be getting for those? And it's not standardized. So herein lies a bigger problem. And this is what we were hoping in the last UNC government, that when we had suggested common procedural terminology to be used, I know for a fact that in the last PNM government, that they had hired a consultant to come. And this man came and he took a lot of money and nothing was done. Right? Then UNC came, again, nothing was done. PNM came for the last 10 years, 9 and something years, and nothing was done when it came into that. So I am hoping that Dr. Bodo and his team, right now, put in the basics, within the healthcare system, and meet with the private practice, meet with the private sector, and the insurance companies, and start standardizing common procedural CPT codes. So what it does, it builds capacity, within the private and the public sector. It also allows, the payment or repayment of persons who have the opportunity to go to the private sector and not be ripped off by doctors or medical institutions, because there is a standard payment system and a standard payment for each procedure, whether it be private or public. And this is where we have to go. I mean, it's 2025, and I got my MBA in healthcare management in 2016. So for 9 to 10 years that we were trying to get these things off the ground. Sorry, I got mine in 2006, sorry. So it's 19 years I've been trying to, every time I go for an interview in the PNM for the last 10 years, they ask me these things and I tell them these things. I tell them about accreditation standards. Sumant, do you know that in all the RHAs that I go and I was interviewed in, we don't have a national accreditation standard for accessing any level of care in Trinidad. If you are going to the casualty, there are certain accreditation standards that have to be put in place from the time you are actually parking your car in the car park to the time they take you out, whether they put you in a wheelchair or not, and whether your relatives accompany you or somebody take you out with that wheelchair into your car, There are accreditation standards that are universal. These are not been implemented. They have not been standardized, They have not been legalized, etc., in Trinidad and Tobago. So the standards of care in all for Trinidad and Tobago, it hasn't reached that level. You understand?
Not only that, as far as I see, there is nobody to hold anybody accountable. And everybody can make up their own rules and do what they want, and not a damn dog bark. So we don't have a structure here to keep people accountable for their course of action, because they know they can do what they can do and get away with it. So, this is something that is, very concerning.
Yeah. Even within the medical fraternity, and the nursing fraternity, the continued medical education, of doctors, for example, who train. I mean, I got my fellowship in 1990 as a fellow of the Royal College of Surgeons of Edinburgh and Glasgow, and I am prescribed to the Journal of Bone and Joint, which is now virtually, thank God, you could actually read my journals, and I still read my journals, I keep up to date. I go to when I go abroad to Rotary conferences, I go to my colleagues, I go to some of the conferences and whatever. But there are many, many, many persons who have not done that. And for you to get recertification and re-registration, these are some of the things that are required. We do not have that in Trinidad and Tobago. We don't. So it means that, I'm saying that we have a lot of highly qualified persons and very competent. I mean, I don't want nobody to come out of this and say that we are not qualified or we don't have qualifications or whatever, and experience. But we need to put the basics in place. It's sometimes not politically, you wouldn't win an election with it, because first of all, the doctors are going to give a fuss. So you might have to start slowly. You have to probably work closely with the medical team and the nursing team. And I think this is something that you have to start in stages. But
you are acting in the best interest of citizens. And if there's proper consultation, public consultation, where you're bringing that information directly to the public, what your objective, that's like how you speak in here, in that what we are trying to accomplish here, and what we aiming to upgrade the system of management. You have to sing that, Dr. Amop. You have to sing that in the public.
Yeah, you see why it is that some of us, when you don't get executive support, you have to this is where it falls down, Because I remember when I was a medical director at the time, I mean, I was doing my MBA at the time when I was medical director, because when I was in casualty, the head of the trauma unit, I was asked to set it up. I thought, let me go and do an MBA in healthcare management, because I wanted to learn about management of healthcare. I wanted to do that not for the job, but to learn about it. And I learned quite a lot. But when we went in there now and we said, okay, look, I want to meet with my doctors, and I had a structured system to do that. And I started to say, let us measure our practice. Let us say that you want to see how many infections that we have in the hospital, how many hospital infections we have. Because this is one of the indicators that when you benchmark this with hospitals all over the world, you have to have a certain level of infections, right? That are hospital acquired infections, right? You have to have a certain level of falls. How many falls do you have in a hospital per patient in that hospital? These are some of the like two basic metrics that we would have used. And when I asked my doctors and my administrators to begin to measure these things and report on them, some of the doctors actually went to the newspapers and reported me and saying that I want doctors to develop these scorecards and have them in school, and it was a nightmare, but we survived it because we were able to try to get the executive to support it and meet with them and try to let them measure their practice. We had UWI doctors who were working in San Fernando Hospital who was not measuring their clinical practice, right? Who was not even telling you, well, how many of this they did and what were the outcomes and what they were not doing it, right? So it still exists today. So one thing is to improve the health sector by implementing programs and fill in the gaps that exist. For example, why it is that you have so many eye surgeries that you need to do with a ship which is coming down next couple of weeks, and they're going to do over 2,000 to 3,000 eye surgeries, right? Cataract surgeries in a few minutes for each one, and they're going to cut down a backlog in Trinidad and Tobago. And you ask yourself, we have 5 RHAs in Trinidad and Tobago, right? With eye specialists in all of them, young doctors who have come back. And why are we not able to do that ourselves? See, these are some of the questions that you have to ask. So although you will be getting the help to fill the gaps, and that is politically correct, and it is good, you have to make sure that it's not a short-term solution to what is basically a long-term problem. So although you're going to be doing those things, and they are going to be politically correct, it wouldn't win you an election in 2030, because whilst you're doing that, yes, it is good, but you have to begin to prepare your health sector, right, for the next 25 years. And if you're looking at the world now, most countries all over the world are going to become more national. They're going to pull back everything within their country. They're going to redefine their borders. They're going to stop migration. This is going to be a universal issue coming forward. It's one of the risks of the fourth industrial age. With the advance of AI, there's going to be a lot of problems for the simple jobs. Things like driving vehicles or simple doctors to do clerical work coming into hospital, your junior officers, right? A lot of surgery has been going to be done by robots, and AI is going to be actually cutting down a lot of prescription errors and whatever. Prescribing will be easier now. You just go to a machine and you plug in your prescription, and within a few seconds you'll get packaged medicines. And then with drones, you can even drop it at your home. You don't even have to come to hospital. It is going to happen, so that we have to begin to understand where we're going with our health sector.
But in all that is well and good, but the fact that we cannot get the basics up and running in an efficient way, and what I'm looking at is that I want to see that health surcharge funds be allocated to the Ministry of Health, where the Ministry of Health does not have to beg for for the funds and be under restraint, number one. And if we should have consultation with the citizenry. Hey, listen, we're looking to upgrade the level of services that you're getting, and would you agree in paying a little extra towards the health surcharge so that we could cover the cost? But we have to set it up in a way that the citizen money does not get used and abused by the government, that the money remains in the account of the health ministry and is properly utilized, we have too much of an issue. I don't think anybody would disagree with paying a little extra to get much more extra healthcare services. I mean, our current situation is a life-threatening situation. We have had too many citizens dead because of basic things that we could have done. As far as I see, very basic things. And you will be able to tell me more because you're a medical doctor. But in me and my common sense, I see that this, a lot of things which is a easy fix, but it takes political will. But if we don't educate the public, if this government does not educate the public why we're trying to do certain things, you wouldn't get the electoral support. But to continue, so it can become a election winnable strategy also for the fact that you are educating the population on why we are doing these things.
So the point that I'm making, Gary, is that it's the health sector, the healthcare is a very dynamic entity. Governments win and lose elections, right, on healthcare issues, right? That's a very important thing. And one of the things that you are correct in is that the basic healthcare services need to be addressed, because what happens is that and how you market that, right? And when you talk about marketing something, you're talking about a business process. Right? You're talking about trying to sell a product, although you're not selling it. It's a sale. If you realize now we do need to go to Apollo because there are quite a lot of persons who are waiting on heart surgery, right? There are quite a lot of children who need special surgery, and we just don't have the competencies or the facilities to do that. And those are the kind of cases that clearly we would have to contract them out. But remember, every single thing costs, right? From
Exactly.
a deal, an airline, for feeding them, housing them, rehabilitation. As I said, you don't.
Right. Yeah. So what I'm saying is, the way I've said it before, Doc, it's more feasible to have the doctors in Trinidad than having to send the people.
Correct,
overseas.
and I think this is what the ministers had said in the campaign, and this is what the Prime Minister had suggested, and this is why we said I am fully in support of the program where you can bring the doctors to Trinidad and allow them to legally practice in Trinidad to perform the surgery. But with that comes a certain amount of, remember I talked just now about preparation, right? We talked about, I know you have some military background in the sense of you're talking about master scenarios, event list. The measles is a very important inject when you're sitting down and you're planning a certain program that you're going to implement, right? So your basics, which you're talking about, is a lot more funds have to be spent, right, in terms of preventative medicine, right?
But if we look, before you continue this, if we look at the amount of people that need a certain specific treatment, and we look at the cost they're doing it individually overseas, I think that we can cut the cost by having the professional in the country. You're saving the heartache of being in a foreign. Some people may enjoy being in a foreign country and it becomes a vacation. Some people may not, because it's a great inconvenience. You have to pick up and leave and go in somebody else's country.
Yeah,
And
this is what I fully agree with. What I'm trying to say though is that it's not just about the surgery, right? It's about the pre-operative care, right, and the post-operative care.
Aftercare.
Right? And if you do not have the correct services to deal with the post-operative care, a couple of bad cases could screw up the whole system.
Correct.
Right? And it will give the opposition a tool.
Ammunition. Give them
That's
ammunition.
Right, to kill us in the next election. So what I'm trying to say is that I give you some examples of interventions that have already caused us problems, right? And all you need is one or two doctors to come up in the open and say openly that this is what happens, and then you see what happened with the state of emergency. right? And anything that the government is going to do in the next few years, as Dr. Maraj was saying, that we're going to be on so much scrutiny that if we even say boo, they're going to come back and say why we say boo, and have a lawyer tell us that we shouldn't say boo. And anything that even looks closely like racist, right? They're going to kill us. They're going to come on the screen and they're going to use that tool against us. And we have to plan for these things before. That's my point about the state of emergency. That's my point about the healthcare system. The few basic things that we need to do, we need to sit down. Right? Your accreditation standards, your patient rights charter, right? Your accreditation, your common procedural terminology, right? Engaging with the insurance. And the biggest, listen, the private sector in Trinidad and Tobago is a big chunk of our health sector. Big chunk, right? In fact, they're so big that it's unbelievable. And we need to really sit down with them and develop some sort of mutually beneficial, right, programs and manage them. So we need to train managers within the health sector, right? This is why I think the composition of the RHA boards have to be very crucial, because in those boards, you have to have the competencies of certain persons who know about health sector management, and they have to align themselves to what Dr. Bodo and Dr. Richard needs and the Prime Minister in terms of their manifesto concerning health and public safety. I think that this is crucial. So once we have a universal program, bringing Tobago into the flow, bringing Tobago into it as well, we should be standardizing accreditation standards across the board. We should be standardizing the common procedural terminology in the public and the private sector. Now, these are the things that our population are going to need. And let me tell you something. You know, the people who would really know that you're doing it and will benefit by it, it will be that set of voters who are going to be voting for you in the marginal seats in San Fernando West and the Tunapunas, and these are the ones who win our elections, the marginal seats. And these are the sort of, if you want to put a middle income set of people who will be affected. A lot of them are teachers, doctors, whatever it is. Some of them have one foot in the public service, but a lot of them go to the private sector. So there's certain initiatives, for example, that should be done right away in terms of just data and how you're looking at the trending, right? Let us give an example, right? Just for the sake of giving an example. My son is a doctor in San Fernando. And he tells me, he said that, we have CT scanners in San Fernando, but they're always not working, right? In fact, there's a big problem now where we had sent a patient down to Point Fortin, right? And, the patient, the length of time they took to do the CT scan down, I think it's in the news. And by the time the patient came back, he died because he just did not get the CT scan in time, because you have to send all the patients from San Fernando to Point Fortin. The patient ended up waiting to go to Point, going to Point, coming back to San Fernando, and then going back to Point, right, to get the CT scan. Because, what amazes me is that in San Fernando,
this has to be documented, and
this nonsense has to be addressed.
Yes. And in San Fernando, listen to me, in San Fernando, there are 4 CT scanners sitting down in the private sector, right? So what it is that I had suggested even in my time when I was medical director, and I said, listen to me. If you look at the elective cases, that is persons who could wait on a CT scan test, right? If you look at the numbers that are required, they're about 6 times more than the emergency CT scans. So during the course of the 24 hours, you would have about 10 to 15 requests for CT imaging, sometimes 20, depending on the weekend or whatever. So why not do all the emergencies in hospital? And why not sit down with the 4 scanners outside the people and say, well, look, let us agree to agree. If you are charging $1,500 for this scan, right, we will send the scans to you, but you will have to make sure that you charge us $1,200 for it. And if you are getting the scans, we will give you the scans, but it means that the accreditation standards are going to have to be X, Y, and Z. We're going to have to manage this in the sense that I don't want a patient to come there and then you tell me you have to get an ECG before. We'll do the ECG in San Fernando. You're not going to mark up the bills and tell me that it's going to be $1,100. I'll cut you from it clean. Let us have a preferred payment system in the sense that if you are going to be getting 20 per month or 10 per month, I'll pay you for that. So these are the kind of things you have to sit down and manage the process. Let me tell you something.
Yeah, but
how about you're saying we have 4 CT scan machines
there and none is working. How will we get those machines working?
No. You have 4 CT scanners in the private sector. You have 2 CT scanners in the hospital, and none of them are working because what they did, they took the part from one of them to fix the other one, right? And when they fixed the other one, it didn't work. So therefore now you have two CT machines not working, right?
Right. So,
So,
it wasn't compatible,
so
whatever.
what I'm saying is that, right. So what I'm saying is that you have 4 scanners which are operating in the private sector. Wouldn't it
Right.
have been easier to sit down and work a managed agreement with these people and at $1,100 for a scan? Because whether you like it or not, it's costing the same thing in the hospital or even more to do that scan. Because in the hospital now, instead of having 4 staff, you have about 8. Then you have to pay the people overtime. Then you have to run the machine. Then when the part is not fixed, you have to send for the part in Miami and bring somebody to fix it because your load is too much. So the point about it is that,
At this stage, why don't we have somebody who can fix it
In the first place.
well, the problem about that is that it's just about management. As you know, there's maintenance, right? Schedule and emergency maintenance, right? And
I find we have too much of educated people in the country.
To not be able to do these things.
Yeah, you have preventative and scheduled maintenance, right? This is if you are the CEO of a company, any company, and you have equipment, right? Your managers must present at your managerial meetings, your technical heads meetings, right? What are your preventive and maintenance schedules for all your key equipment, right? That is unless you don't get that, then
I would like
Yeah.
to see the reports of the doctors that the notification they have given
The previous administration with the recommendation of things need to be addressed.
and see what was done, because I mean, we need.
No,
Did
but
they make any recommendation? I mean, I'm
see,
sure the doctors asked for something.
this is what I'm saying, is that when you say that, right, you have what is called, you have in any organization, you have what is called an incident reporting system, right? That incident reporting system is actually run in a hospital by the quality department. The quality department reports directly to the CEO, the quality manager. Okay, that incident reporting system must be linked to the IT. Good. It means that any incident in the hospital, whether it's administrative, financial, right, in terms of any one of the service lines of the healthcare delivery system, right, at any maintenance, any aspect of the administration of healthcare, there must be incidents that are reported. These incidents from security, everything, and they are reported and they are dealt with in a managed way. So that what you begin to do is you begin to pick up trends, and once you pick up trends, you can out the fires and before they occur, and that is how you.
You're saying the way it should be done, but is it being done?
And the answer to that is where your CEOs come in. If in the last 10 years they hired CEOs and they put in place boards who didn't have the competencies to now review the work of the CEO, and they put CEOs who didn't have the competencies to manage an organization that is very complex, right, and do some of the things that I'm just talking about without proper training, then my suggestion is that what the government has to do this time around is to bring in executive coaches, right, train a lot of your key managers, right, with management skills, so that a lot of the things that I'm talking about and Sumant is talking about, right, developing your processes, right, looking at the process flows, measuring your processes, putting the key indicators, measuring the healthcare system, telling me exactly, okay, I did 25 hip operations in the past month, and what are you measuring? The number of operations you're doing? No, you're measuring the quality of life that the person has after you did the hip operations.
Correct.
Are these 25 people going back to work within a month, which is the international standard? Because right now they can't. Why? Because they're not getting physiotherapists. They're not getting to the physiotherapists. You see? So, and if you go privately to get a physiotherapy, some therapists will charge 1,000, some will charge 500. The insurance company might pay 300 for one, 200 for one, because the other guy charging 1,000. So right away, these are the things that need sorted out. These are the important things that need sorted out, right, in the health sector. This is what is going to make the difference in where we're going. You understand? And if you can't,
I definitely think we can fix that in the first 5 years.
I think that you can. I just gave you the solution where you have in-house training, right, which the government can support, with the University of Trinidad and Tobago, because the University of Trinidad and Tobago, right, I do work there with them. We run certificate courses in healthcare management and disaster management, forensic this, and I do work with them. And from time to time, recently I did a work with Eastern Regional Health Authority when the last CEO who has passed now, so Afat, was there. And we did a whole course on enterprise risk management in healthcare and root cause analysis. Good. And we worked with the quality department and some young doctors there, and we did see a lot of positive changes in that authority after. This is something that could be done for all the RHAs, right? And I think that this could be done.
There has to be
now.
standard operating procedures.
That's correct. And this is what enterprise risk management and healthcare and root cause analysis. This is a course that is done to institutionally strengthen healthcare systems by providing a risk-based approach to healthcare delivery. This is something
and the quality control officer can be on the payroll and not be on the job.
That's correct. So what we do is we convert the quality officers into what we call quality risk managers. Right? And this is what you do now. So you convert your sector. So a lot of the problems we have, like with these CT scanners and all of those things now we will get the managers of those areas and radiology and whatever to begin to manage healthcare systems, because they don't have that competency. A lot of them might go and become an HR manager, they might become an engineer and you hire them, etc., etc. But engineers are not managers. You understand? An HR manager will manage HR, but the HR manager, when you put her up now to be acting CEO, she cannot run the entire, or he cannot run the entire organization, because they don't have that level of understanding of healthcare systems, etc. You understand? They only know about HR. Similar, a lot of engineers has been moved up to acting CEOs and CEOs. Engineers are good at process management and they understand processes and measurement, etc. But remember, healthcare management is a business. It's a whole different level of organization. You understand?
But I am concerned about getting this public health system up and running in an effective way. And I mean, if you have a separation of the private sector and the public sector, and then you have doctors who comes to the hospital but doesn't give their full potential because they're practicing in the private sector, and then they would refer you to the private facility where they're working in, and charge you for it. I mean, there seems to be all these kind of things happening, but
you see, those are very difficult things. And the thing about it is that if you begin to tackle that, they wouldn't want us to do that right now. People wouldn't want us. It's not politically correct to do those things, but there are ways that you can begin to do.
What I'm saying, I want to see the public sector comes up to standard where it would not become necessary for a person to...
That will be longer term, and that is something that can be done. The thing about it, what we're saying is that it has been done in Israel, right? I remember working with a doctor in Jackson Memorial Hospital who was a captain in in the military in Israel, but he was also a trauma surgeon. I worked with him very closely in Jackson Memorial Hospital. In fact, when the first robot was introduced there, I was invited by him to go to Jackson Memorial, and I spent a whole week with him there. And he taught me a lot of lessons about patient management, bed management. Anytime he entered the door in Jackson Memorial, he would scan his card, right? When he did that, he said, "Well, doc, one of the things is that if I scan my card, I come to work at 8 o'clock and I leave at 4, unless I'm on call." He said, "Do you know that management can call me and say, 'Well, doctor, you have been here all day. That's fine. I see that. But if I leave here at 10 o'clock in the morning and I go home, right, or wherever I go, I would have logged out from the car park at 10, and right away, I would not have earned my keep because I'm supposed to be here from 8 to 4. The point about it is that it's a security system, but it also measures when that doctor was in and out of the hospital. You understand what I'm saying? So there are certain systems that can be put in place. Now you're not gonna kill them and say, well, you're supposed to be. First thing they would say is, if you want me in hospital from 8 to 4, you are supposed to give me the facilities for me to stay here. You don't want me to stand up in a corridor and see patients or do my work because you don't have a proper office for me, right? You don't have air
And the
conditioning.
equipment has to be
Right.
there. It has to be
Right.
functional. You
You
have to have the
understand?
technical
Right.
staff to make sure
Positive.
that the equipment
That's
is
what I'm saying.
working.
So it is definitely you can't ask for something that you're not able to
Yeah, but
provide.
this is what we need from this government. Is these are the kind of things we want to see from this government where these things are implemented.
Yes. So I think that, as I said, I feel that with Dr. Bodo, who has had experience in the public health sector and private health sector, Dr. Richard, I think that I mean, I'm looking at the board appointments for the Southwest and the Eastern Regional. If they are correct, I think it was submitted. I'm not sure if it was approved yet, but I know that I'm seeing a couple persons who are on the boards. I'm saying that I'm hoping, I am positive that good sense will prevail, that they would have persons there who are able to manage the health sector, right? I mean, yes, you can have your political appointments, fine, but I do feel that they
Yeah,
need
for
to have a
political
balance.
appointments, yes, but we want to make sure things are functional
That's correct. I
up to
do feel,
standard.
yes, I mean,
You
because
put
health,
in
yeah.
friends and associates. We see
But as I
happening.
said,
Yeah,
right now, I mean, what it doesn't matter in terms of who they put there, but once at least one or
the
the chair,
job is being done. We
right,
want the job
right,
done.
right, and once the
But
vice
I'm saying,
president,
the PNM, they install people there who were not competent,
correct, correct. I,
and they did not care, uh, and
I,
nobody challenged them, or nobody was strong enough to challenge them because they can do
I
what they want.
appeared. Listen to me. I appeared for interviews in Southwest, Northwest, North Central, Tobago, Eastern. Right. I was interviewed by board members, and there was one particular chap from the ministry who always came back in these interviews. And I hope that he doesn't. I hope for God somebody realizes that he needs to be out of there. But anyway, that guy would come down with these people and they would interview me, and it's almost like they would learn from what I'm trying to say, and they would be smiling in this beautiful snickering way that you're not going to get a job, but they're just taking as much as they could from what you're saying, right? As much as you could. I mean, at one point in time, I even was so stupid as to send my whole dossier on enterprise risk management. That's when they had the cyber attacks at San Fernando Hospital, right? And they were even asking me for the solutions of what I
Boy,
did.
you spell out things for them. You
Yes,
give them too much.
I did, and I was so stupid. My wife, when I came home, she said, "Stephen, why are you so dotish?" Right? And I said to myself, I wouldn't go for another interview. And I ended up in Eastern Regional Health Authority, and they wanted me to do a slide. Man, I did this slide, man. I tell you, oh my God! And I had hopes, I really had hopes, but it was dashed. And I'm just hoping that Lux and his team, right? They have boards that somehow that they actually get into this whole management of the health sector thing where you focus on a few big quick wins, right? Yes, Apollo, that is going to be politically correct. Get it done. Bring in the ships. Work with get rid of some of your backlogs, like your operations, like your cataracts and whatever, because a lot of people looking for that. But at the same time, right, begin to develop the basics, put the foundation for a good healthcare in place now. Make it legacy, make it high impact, and that means that you spend more money on preventative, right? I learned that lesson myself individually. I was under poor control. I was here seeing my endocrinologist. My sugar was out of control, my HbA1c, and all of it was drugs, medications, exercise. I'm doing that, but my obesity, my belly, and everything else. And here it is at 2 or 3 medications just done properly, right? With exercise and with diet, and you lost 45 pounds, your diabetes is under control, etc., etc. The point about it is that we have people who would go to health centers. They will sit down and wait for hours. Then they go and they meet the doctor. The doctor looks at them and they don't even examine them, and they prescribe the medicine that is on their file because they have about 40 people waiting outside. And this is maybe number 10 or after sitting down in the clinic for a whole day. And they just keep prescribing the medicine. The people go outside and they go and they get their medicine and they go home and they have medicine packed up on medicine, right?
But Doc, I'll tell you something. I noticed what happened to my father, right? When he relocated to Trinidad, within 2 years, I guess he started to use some local medicine. His body started to swell, right? And that means he was gathering water from whatever fact medicine that he was using there. You
Yeah.
know, and so I am aware of the levels of medicine that goes to Trinidad
We
compared to
have
what comes
right. I
to.
see. We have to have a lot of controls. I see that they say they want to get some medicines from India, right? When we check our journals of medicine, right? I mean, as I said, I'm very up to date with my journals, right? One of the things that I do is read a lot of my peer reviewed journals. And when you check them, one of the biggest problems we have in India coming out of the the Indian continent, the Indian nation, right, or country of India, sorry, is fake drugs, right? In other words, then drugs that are not
Watered
prepared.
down because I was working alongside some people
Yeah,
who were creating the drugs and they came from an Indian company. I won't call the
yeah,
Indian company name,
yeah,
right? And this guy, in fact, this guy was Swedish or something like that, and he was explaining. It's he who brought it down to me, and I asked him a question.
yeah,
And then he said that they make the different what the drugs are selling to Trinidad is a different grade of drugs compared to what they're selling here in the United States.
yeah.
Because United States has to be FDA approved
Correct.
level of drugs. So they said in the Caribbean they give you watered down drugs,
Yeah,
and these medicine, the doctor will keep giving you medicine. They will prescribe,
yeah.
and your body swelling and things happening to you, and they wouldn't acknowledge and you die. They just put you die of certain what they call it. How you guys just describe it when the stress related disease. How they say I forgot the name now.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, oh, he died
Yeah.
of a heart attack. Oh, did he do an autopsy to determine he died of a heart attack? But anyway, um,
Yeah.
but this is
No,
this
no,
is standards. I mean,
you're correct, and I think that, as I said, because Dr. Bodo has been a physician both in the private and he knows about all of these, I think that he would make sure that the Food and Drug Administration, well, the I think in Trinidad and Tobago we call them the Food and Drug, yes, and what they do is they actually test all of the medications coming in, right? So I think that once they do that, with the pharmacology board, and I think he met with the pharmacists already, right? A lot of the medications that would fall under a very, very heavy, high level of scrutiny. So I think that I'm happy that he's there and what he's doing. So I think that we shouldn't have a problem with all of those things. And I
but
think we
he just like you said, he's going to be run up against those who don't want the change because they're
yes, that, that,
comfortable with
that
it.
is that is the point I'm making. So I think that what we have to do, I learned a lot, in my first stint when I was medical director, because I tried to implement change without having executive support. I think that Dr. Bodo has to make sure and put in those boards persons who are capable of providing that executive support to the clinicians, right, and the medical directors and the executive medical directors on the ground. So that what will happen is that if they are beginning to implement changes within the organization, and change is needed, definitely they will have to do it in a managed way, and this will be supervised by a proper CEO, somebody who knows how to manage the authority, and of course with the executive support, right? That is the support of the board and the understanding of the board on how to manage issues pertaining to the health sector. So I think there is some time. I think that he is hopefully going to choose some of the other boards soon, so that will be something that we'll be looking forward to. And I do hope that at some point in time, if we see something is happening and we would like it to happen, maybe in a way that is like for example, enterprise risk management training. Maybe we can offer that, through the public service, Gary, so that we can get
Well,
some financial support,
you reach
and we
out to
could,
him,
yeah, and we could provide that for him. So you
right?
could build the competencies within the board. We could start with the boards first. We could let the boards do the course so they could understand it, right? And then after that, the managers and whatever, and some could be done virtually, some could be done where the consultants go into the actual RHAs and work with them. We could work with Sumant, and we could develop the performance indicators, for the universal, for the whole country, where each RHA would have a certain set of metrics that will be allowed to measure the performance in all the sectors. And I'm not talking about just medical services. I'm talking about administrative, maintenance,
Well,
financial.
that is why I was telling him to create
Uh,
a module
Yeah,
where it can be utilized across the board, and then you will
yeah,
break down things into the medical and different thing. But at least something of a technological platform,
Yeah.
that you can use.
So we hope. I mean, I hope Samantha and I could be part of helping that as going forward. But right now, let them do what they have to do. Let them.
That's the point. I let them. They have their own agenda
Yeah.
at least, and when they realize what
Yeah.
we have been saying
Yeah.
makes more sense to
Yeah.
them,
Yeah.
then they will appreciate that. Because right now, I don't think any minister or ministry is
Yeah.
taking on anybody.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what they said.
I get
Well,
that
listen,
feeling too, and
we
I
will
say,
observe and then we will make recommendations.
correct,
Yeah.
correct, and
Yeah.
they will show them the shortcoming because.
Yeah.
Listen, the whole world has gone data. If you don't have data on things, you're not going to
Yeah.
improve services and delivery of services. And that's
You know,
basically
you know, you know, you know how nice it would be for Dr. Boda and Dr. Richard sitting down with their boards virtually, so that once a month they meet with their boards virtually, all the chairmen, right? And the chairman presents a picture, and in that picture there are about 12 little boxes.
correct.
And in the 12 little boxes, you have yellow, red, green, yellow, red, green, yellow, red, green, and you see the reds. So they look at it and say, tell me what's happening. Why are we red? And then they say, well, this is radiology. We have a problem in Eastern. We don't have a CT scan, one of the machines, blah, 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 blah. We try to get it part and it's taking so long. You know what I mean? And then the Bodo goes to cabinet and he says, okay, let's give the Eastern let them meet with the private providers in that region, and let them contract out all the elective CT scans and only do the emergencies, right? In Mount Hope. At Mount Hope, do the emergencies if they can, blah, blah, because they have 3 machines. He said, you know what I'm talking about. So you begin to begin to look at the whole country, and all you're going to be putting up is like these little dashboards with red and green, right?
And
but when we sit down with the managers now, their dashboards might have about 25 elements.
Correct.
To feed into that yellow,
Yes.
which Bodo and them only seen as yellow. Because when you give those the board members now, their board members have 25. Then when you go down to the managers, they have 50. And every month they have to report on every single 50 indicator. And
Yes.
that way, preventative and scheduled maintenance, it means that you have to pick up the problem before your machine breaks down.
Correct. And not only that, just standardize it across the board. So it's
That's
not
correct.
different whether you're doing it in
That's correct.
West,
That's
doing it in Tobago. It's the same measurement tools you're using.
Yeah. So that way,
The
now if I
dashboard
say,
looks the same,
Right.
whether it's
Yeah.
red, yellow, green, whatever it is.
if I say,
Why
what is
should
it?
it be red?
Right. When I talk to my chairman, I say, what is the hospital infection rate in Tobago? And then they say 10. And San Fernando, 27.
Why?
And in North Central, 5. Okay, so what is happening? What is the benchmark for that? Oh, international hospitals for like a 500-bed hospitals, it's supposed to be 5. So wait. So wait. Are you telling me that we have 27 in San Fernando? You see, this is how you manage your sector. This is what you need to do. And if we keep on just outing the fires when they occur and answering to the press and have the opposition banging you every time something happens, you're going to just find out that the 5 years is going to reach, and basically you're back to square one.
Yep, you're right. And that's the way I got the feeling from past experience that all these ministers and them, they're busy one. They're trying to just clean up the mess too. But thirdly, they have their own agenda and they have to try to implement that. So there are 3 things they're running up
You have
against.
to keep
Let's
in
see
mind
how
how
it
the
goes.
politics work, right? Everybody have their personal.
And that's okay, that I agree that you will come with certain preconceived things that you would like to see implemented, but you have to know in a political system how things operate. And I don't feel comfortable that these ministers exactly know the powers that they don't have, so to speak. They think they can do it, but they can't. Because it comes down to the same thing. To buy a machine, or let's say you want an X-ray machine, there's a process. You cannot go and get one today for next month or next 6 months. There's a process in which you buy anything in the government service. Like you must have your 3 codes. You must have your specs outlined. You must have, the contracts and so on, how pre and post maintenance scheduling, all these things come into play, not to mention the price, servicing. And once you get a supplier who has not been, he comes out of China, India, and they don't have no track record, and all these sort of things pay off. Sometimes it takes a year, 18 months to acquire a piece of machinery.
And you see what happens, Sumant, is that you have also things like management, right? So let us say, right, that a question is asked at the board level, and they say, well, how many machines we have in Southwest? And they say, okay, well, we have 2 in San Fernando, 1 in Point. What is the status of the San Fernando? Well, 2 not working, so we're sending our patients to Point. All right. So then you ask yourself, okay, tell me something. What is the utilization rate of one of these machines?
The volume, yeah.
And then you say utilization. What do you mean? Okay, so how many patients does a machine? How many cases does a machine do per month, right? And they say, okay, well, we do about 400. Say, how much is done in San Fernando? Well, we do 1,000. Okay, so in other words, then a machine works at what? About so the average
2.5 times more in San Fernando per month than in Point.
Good. So then I ask the next question. Now, okay, tell me something. Out of those 400 cases that are done, does any one of the manager or clinical managers, have they ever audited the requests from the doctors to see if they are valid, pertinent, or is it relevant? In other words, what are the number of false positives and false negatives? Are we having a problem with over prescribing? And how do we audit that? Does someone go through those requests and say whose responsibility that? Oh, that will be the chief radiologist for the region. Okay, does the chief radiologist sit down and does he go through all the requests and the cases to see if what percentage of the requests actually are really needed? How many are done by the specialists? How many are done by the junior officers? How many are done by a GP outside, etc. Right? And how many cases are whether they really need it or not? And the radiologist will be able to tell us, because that's his competency. Whether the case was actually needed or not, he should have been able to do that from the beginning and say, well, look, I don't think we need to do this. Let me talk to your consultant, right? So what I'm trying to say is that is a process. That is a process that has to be managed, and as a responsibility officer, right, who is the radiologist on one hand and the head of the clinical department on the other, to make sure that the request is a valid or, a bona fide request, right? And it's not just a willy-nilly thing just to do a CT scan to check something when an X-ray could have done it, if you know what I mean. Or whether or not it was a bony problem and you needed an MRI for a muscle problem, etc., etc. So who is auditing that? Okay. When I left in 2011 to go to ODPM after finishing medical director there, it was not being done. Good. In the last 10 years, I doubt very much that is being done. So in other words, then, if you're telling me that there is 800 or 1,000 or 2,000 requests in the RHA in total, how many of those 2,000 are really bona fide requests? Is somebody giving me that data too? Now, I'm just talking about one aspect of this whole thing. I'm not even talking about the machine itself and when was it maintained and when was give me the preventative maintenance schedule, and you know what I mean? I ain't talking about all of that and so much. I'm just talking about one aspect of the whole process.
Yes.
You understand? So this is the kind of thing that I think, right? I know if you are running a private entity, that will be important. But if you're in a public service with that information, nobody really care. You have a CT scan, man, already CT scan. In fact, people from outside will come to the office and say, Dr. Amro, I have a friend in the hospital. They will get the CT scan for me. You know what I mean? Or they will get the X-ray for me. Don't worry, I will get it. I have a friend in hospital. They will get it. I will go and do it there. So it means that people from outside are getting access to the test inside because of somebody they know inside. How are they doing that? You understand? In this day and age, how are they doing that? So it means that there have to be some checks and balances. People have to manage the system, right? I mean, that person who went from my office has to be registered in a clinic. They have to have a hospital registration number. That number has to be entered into the request form. The doctor who doing it have to be at the specialist level, or at least a registrar, or what we call a consultant or senior resident, you know what I mean, level, right? Not a junior officer, right? Etc. Not a junior resident, a PGY1 or whatever. It has to be PG at least 4 or 3. You understand? Or chief of staff. So these are some of these small things that needs to be done to improve the health sector.
I'm going to be waiting
Also,
patiently to see how it is rolled out. You know.
also, the ability to read and analyze things, doc, is exceedingly important, because doctors may know the medical stuff, but when time you see it coming to the statistical part of things, like determining what is a false positive or false negative and so on,
Yeah.
it becomes very confusing to a lot of people. Actually, it took me a while to actually understand that, because it's part of your measurement of accuracy. That is what it is. For example, if you do what is a false positive? A false positive means where you have incorrectly predicted something which is positive. Incorrectly predicted. Or what is a false negative? The same way. Incorrectly predicting something which is not true. It's a negative. And when you, from that analytical point of view, when medical personnel are unable to analyze that, it becomes a problem as well. So that you can, point is that your accuracy level falls, mean you're saying something to a patient which is not true. That the patient has this, he has X complaint, he has let's say he has a high cholesterol or something. So yes, you're predicting your prediction of the diagnosis is wrong, and that is scary to some patients. Imagine you tell a guy who does not have cancer he has cancer. What is that psychological, diagnosis affects the patient?
And traumatic
Yeah,
psychological
traumatic,
damage.
yeah. False negatives, false positives, all these things you have to know. You have to understand what it is first, and how to convey the right message.
Yeah. You see, and we were talking about the importance of certain measurements, and one of them we talked about was the door to needle time. Right?
Yes.
We talked about the field to hospital time, right?
Correct.
How long it takes the ambulance to get in, right? We have one of the key things, for example, if somebody has a cancer, right? For example, how long does it take a lady with breast cancer to get to see a doctor? How long does it take her to get a biopsy? And when you get a biopsy, how long does it take to get a report that there is cancer? Now, that data have to be presented, right, to the managers, right, of the, let's say, the pathology department. Have to make sure and have that metric, for example, from when the report came to when it was issued. The operators, the surgeon has to give the information as from how long it takes from the biopsy to get the report, right? The clinic staff, that is the medical records manager have to provide the time from when the patient was referred by the GP to when the patient actually saw the doctor, right? Now, when the chairman of the board has a statutory meeting and he meets with the CEO, right? These are some of the things that the health representative in the board will ask for. Right, I want to know what are your waiting times for, and he runs through all of these.
Yes.
That means CEO has his technical heads meeting, or she has his technical head meeting. They are supposed to provide that to them, and this is what the chairman of the board has to want. And when he sits down in the meeting, he says, "Well, with effect from so and so, these are some of the key indicators that I need to give to me on a monthly basis when it comes to the health sector." I'm talking about. The CEO has to report to what the chief financial officer is talking about finances, like things like salary. The HR manager has to go to the CEO and give his important vacancies and leave absences and overtime. So each manager has a particular responsibility. But these are some of the ones we're talking about, the health delivery. So this is basically what the crux of the service is all about. This is the core service. This is the service to actually the individual that comes for the hospital. This is how you're treating your cancer patients and getting them cured of their cancer, because if they don't, they die. This is the core service of a hospital, providing patient care. So this will be the big chunk on what the doctor in the board, or the doctors who are appointed to the board, will be required now to ask, and present, when he presents his report to the chairman, about what is happening on the medical side of things. So he has to have a separate meeting with the thing. So having the boards is also well, but we have to understand how they're going to have to structure the information flow.
That is the point. That is the point, Doc. That is the crux of the whole matter there. And they have to be managers, because I'll tell you what, you might be the best doctor on the board and so on or assistant chairman or what, but if you don't have the managerial skills to accompany your medical skills, you have to be both a management and a competent doctor as well in the case of certain positions, right? So, you need to have a combination of technology, medicine, management, administrative, financial. You have to have these combination of skills. You can't be, uni or one directional.
Yeah. Now you see, this is what I thought that remember in America you have a Surgeon General, right?
Yes.
I was hoping that in Trinidad and Tobago you convert the chief medical officer into a managerial position that allows the politics of the day, the politicians of the day to do their work. But what he or she does is almost become like what we're talking about, the overall CEO of the health sector, right? Meaning that what will happen, you appoint your boards and whatever, but this is the man or woman who will actually sit down with the board chairman, right? And say, well, look, okay, this is what we need to do. This is what we want to get. This is the service level agreement that the Ministry of Health has. The service level agreement is now what the RHAs are using now to provide the services. This is their metrics. This is in other words, their metrics from the ministry is the service level agreement. That's what it is, the SLA. The chairman of the board now has to implement the SLA in all the RHAs. That's their deliverable. That's their main deliverable. And out of that, now they have to create their own dashboards and metrics to measure that, the feedback to what the CMO requires. So I have a solution. My solution is, okay, you're going to bring in all these political people on the board. Fine, bring them. We mentioned about the training, right? I'm suggesting that the Minister of Health or the Ministers of Health have an advisor, right? Someone who almost is like an executive coach who sits with them, right? And the CMO, whoever may that be, identify the gaps in training that are required within the next 3 months, right? Once the boards are appointed, bring that level of training up to some degree, which allows us to understand what Sumant and I are talking about, right? Understand so that we can agree, and then that person, right, can then advise on all that we're talking about going forward, right? And I think that way now you can continue to have your chairman, whoever you want to choose, and your doctor, whoever you want to choose, but at least that person who advises the CMO until such time when you can change the requirement of what the CMO is. Because right now the CMO has to be somebody in public health and all this sort of thing, right? Have to have some degree of that. But I don't think that is what you need now, because you invented the RHAs. So I think what the CMO really has to be something like what the Surgeon General is, almost like a person who actually is a CEO of the entire health sector, which reports back to the Minister of Health.
Yes, sir.
You know, so I feel that is the overall solution for that. And the second thing, about change the requirements of the Chief Medical Officer, so that in the next 5 years, you hire somebody who is an executive, right? It could be a doctor, fine, right? Trained in, and you have a few doctors who are training in healthcare management. So let somebody manage your health sector at that level, so that the political system is not going to change in this country for the next 100 years. Partisan politics is going to continue. People are going to elect people on the board who are politically aligned to their party. They're not going to choose persons like Sumant or I to go on a board, to chair a board. I don't think they will do that. So that means, because we are not persons like that. They don't want us. They might think we're going to make changes too drastic, or we're not that politically partisan, or we didn't go to the meetings, and So I don't think they will want us to do that. But at least what they should do is they should say, well, let us get somebody on board right now, right, who could help us, who don't want no big set of money, but they will help us for the purpose of helping the country. Let's hear what they have to say. Let's do it. And if it doesn't work out within 6 months, get rid of them, man. Oh God, man. But give them a chance. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's the way it should be. But again, I know for a fact these guys have their own agenda. They ain't going to be accommodative to anyone with sound reasoning or these type of skills, which is basically result oriented and cuts across the board, various boards and so on. Especially the measurement aspect of it. Tell me what is happening with cancer right now in this Eastern versus Southwest. What are the equipment you have? What is how many doctors you have down there in cancer specialists versus this side?
You see, and that's why you could build, Sumant, you could build how many big cancer centers, right? You could build a building, have highest technology and everything else that you have. But if your ability to have a short time between when the biopsy is done to diagnose the cancer,
the work processes flows.
Yeah, if the time that it takes for a person to be diagnosed with a lump in a breast in the community to reach a doctor in hospital to be over 3 to 6 months, right?
What
are you going to spend millions of dollars to set up a big cancer center when you're not getting your people to get the diagnosis fast? So you see, by the time it reaches there, now you have to start using more expensive palliative therapy, more expensive medication, when a simple half an hour surgery to cut out the lump, do a lumpectomy is going to give that person another 40 years because you're getting it early, right? What about your screening programs in the clinic? Hire the young doctors who are unemployed. Dr. Bodo says there's over 500 doctors who are unemployed, right? Get some of those doctors to begin to go and perform clinical examinations on all of our high-risk women out there. Get them to go and do the HbA1c testing with the district health nurses. So the HbA1c testing gives a very good idea of the medications that you're prescribing like crazy out there. People, I tell you, people in our country, in the communities, have bags of medicine that they're not using, right? You're prescribing and you're buying more and more medicine, but compliance is not being measured. Are you measuring these people actually using the tablets, and how are you measuring compliance? Are you measuring compliance by doing the HbA1c testing for sugar? That's one of the biggest killers in Trinidad and Tobago. But if you're not doing the HbA1c testing in the periphery, you don't have an idea on whether these people are using the medications. And then that means that your amputation rates will be high, your hospital rates for stroke and heart attacks will be high, etc. Your mortality due to heart attacks. I mean, just recently we had a 50-year-old a guy who is a caterer in Trinidad, Malachi. He died of a heart attack. A young boy. He did the catering for my son's wedding. Recently, 2 years ago, and he died of a massive heart attack at 50-something. So we have the young people. They're dying, and it is because of bad diets, the inability to get tablets like Ozempic, injections like Ozempic. Jardiance, which is very expensive, you have to buy it in the private sector.
Wegovy and all these other high-tech medication. Entresto and so on. And this is what this is the beauty of AI, in medicine, is that its ability after you have had your operations and so on, after it has identify you, the patient, that's happening. A lot of collaboration. Let's say somebody is hypertensive, diabetic, they have a stroke, and so on. What is the best medicine combination of medicine that works best for him or her? It's not a wide paintbrush, not a one brush paints all. Certain people react to certain medication, and that is what they taught me in Mount Sinai. Because part of the AI training was there, and they say, after this heart surgery, to strengthen the heart, the AI recommends a drug called Entresto. Right? Now, it's an expensive drug, most insurance, but that is the premium treatment for it. Some with kidney related to heart, say, you know what, man? We have to recommend Jardiance because it brings down the A1C while protecting the heart and so on. So that may be the best. I mean,
very expensive. Very expensive. It's very expensive.
Yes, but that is the premium for it. Now they will have what is the backup or the next alternative and so on for this thing. Or they may say, okay, Farxiga. This person cannot tolerate Jardiance, so let's switch it to Farxiga, which is something like Jardians, but it does not create the what's called yeast infection in most cases.
Right, yeah.
So all these combinations of things, from my memory, which is why
And-
one
and-
medication is preferred.
I
to
think
the other.
if we have a doctor going home to some of these people, they could take the time and counsel them and sit down and work out it.
Yeah, but again, doc, the problem is in the health center, when you have to see 50 patients at a
I feel we have quite a lot of doctors to zone the country into about 15 or 20 zones, and I think their doctors could actually be under the mentorship of a senior doctor,
yes,
right, like the MO1,
yeah,
and they could begin to visit. Remember, I told you about the enumeration district, so we begin to map our district so that the health center has all the patients who come to them. They have them mapped, right? And the doctors go out with the district health visitors, right, and begin to bring healthcare to the house.
to the
Bring
people.
healthcare to the
Yes,
house.
yeah.
I think if you bring healthcare to the house, we are a small country, right? We could do that, and let the police go in the beginning with these people, so it makes the security good and thing for them. And while the police is doing that, we could also incorporate some of the criminal key performance indicators for the police now to begin to map the communities so that they can begin to build some of the things we talked about, the community resilience, right?
Yeah.
And start to monitor crime activities as well. With a
Because
police presence there, I mean, with squad cars, with doctors coming in, I think it will be a deterrent. I think crime will go down a bit with your drones flying around, at night, police recording it, you know what I mean? Helicopters passing over. I mean, listen, a lot could be done to make our people a little more comfortable. And
Yeah,
these are
well-
the things we want to see.
Yeah, I was chatting with Dr. Buddha last year. I remember I was down there and we met up and so on. He said, boy, it's so difficult in the health centers that you can't imagine. Most times these doctors just come, they just spend a day only writing prescriptions.
Yeah.
Only writing prescriptions. You have 75, 80 to 100 people to see.
Yeah.
When can you see that? If you have 2 minutes per person, you have
Yeah.
plenty.
Yeah.
So first thing I ask them, how are you? Feeling better? Any changes in medication? Okay, write the prescription and go to the pharmacy. He said you cannot interrogate any patient like 5 or 10 minutes to find out and analyze the situation. And no analysis is done. None whatsoever.
Yeah.
You just look at the past prescription.
You have a
And we
person
pay for that,
complaining. A person, no, this is health centers. This is free. A person
No, but
complaining.
we
of-
still paid.
Well, we pay the doctors, we pay the nurses, we pay to keep the health center open. But
Right.
a doctor,
we paid for all of that.
a doctor wouldn't put a stethoscope on. Listen, even in the hospital, when I was medical director, right, and you walk in the hospital, and I used to do some random checks, you have doctors who passing on the wards, right, and the person has a chest problem, right, they're wheezing or whatever, and nobody puts a stethoscope on their chest. They just keep monitoring the charts that the nurses will write, every day writing and whatever, and then they'll prescribe, and when they feel better, they send them home. But there's certain routine things that, clinicians will have to start doing. But what we're talking about here now is the workload is very high. I mean, even from the days when I used to work in the health center, what Sumant is saying is the same thing. What Dr. Bodo saw in the health centers in Faizabad, I think, in last year, is the same thing.
Yeah, last year, it's myself. We were talking about it. I was there with him in the office there.
So and this is throughout the country. I mean, trust me, my son worked in the health sector recently. I mean, when he was doing his internship and whatever, he worked in the health centers, and it's the same thing. So if it hasn't changed, Gary, it hasn't changed. It means that we have to change it. And COVID gave us some lessons.
Absolutely,
In COVID, everybody was home, and we didn't
Doc,
lose.
we
didn't
have to
lose-
change it, but what we recommending, the people has to be properly educated and what the recommendation is and what is.
But
the best.
education is one thing, yeah. And this is why I made the point about the 2 timetables and the 3 timetables and the 4 timetables. When we talked about it earlier, I think 2 or 3 sessions before, where in school we used to go and they used to tell us, by rote. Let's hear you say the 2 timetables, 1, 2, 2 times. You singing this and you didn't have a damn clue about what the hell this damn thing was going to do in the future, right? So education has to be at the level of the educator as well as the person to be educated. And this is why when we do demographic studies, we have to look at levels of education. right? Meaning that if you go to a community, there are different persons with different levels of education. So say a university level, there's secondary level, there's elementary. Some people didn't even go to school besides maybe elementary school. So how you tailor your education programs. Health education is a big thing in the Ministry of Health. There's a whole division of health education, and that has to go hand in hand with what you're saying. And I completely agree with what you're saying. Education is very important, but it has to be tailored to suit the occasion. We are now in the fourth industrial age, where somebody gets more information from Google and more information from YouTube and TikTok than they get from the health sector. So there's a certain amount of expectation for persons within a home that is much different to 10 or 15 years ago when educators used to come
That's
home.
where you tell them they just had to buy it.
I'm telling you. So these people are them already exposed to healthcare information that is free online, internet. You type anything. What is the best treatment for diabetes? And
I have people who call me over here, friends and family.
Yeah,
say,
so
well,
they
this
do.
is the case now. What do you think? Is this doing the right thing? This is the wrong thing?
All right. So they do it on a smartphone. So I even told you recently, we went when I was in ODPM, we went to Martinique. And the French people have a very good system where they have a call center which is run by doctors 24/7. So it means that you now could get all your Google information, and just like they called you, Gary, they could call this hotline 24/7 and speak to a doctor, right?
Well,
and that doctor will tell them X, Y, and Z. Well, listen, Google is one thing, but let me hear what is blah 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 blah. And what I'm saying is, if you add this call center where some of the doctors could be hired and paid, right? And this call center could actually serve the whole of Trinidad and Tobago. And what it can do is cut down admission rates to hospitals, admission rates to clinics. If you can also allow people to go on a phone app, right, and make a clinic appointment, for example, for their mother, or if they can actually cut down the appointments can be given and start to be staged. And if some of these can be seen at home by a home doctor, it actually cuts down the amount of time. So it allows the health center doctor, like what Bodo was saying, to have more time to deal with some of the patients who need to come to them.
I know we recommended it. Is it already in place with the extended hours? Are there?
Yeah, the extended hours have been in place. Yes.
Okay.
Right.
But you see, that is just trying to extend the same service. And what eventually happened when we did extend it in the time when I was working with the UNC, that's under Pandey's time, right? And I was still in the public service. In fact, I was around at the time medical director. Just after when PNM came into power, right, I became medical director, right? So what had happened is that before that, when I was the head of casualty, we were dealing with some data that was coming out of the Couva district facility and the Princestown district health facility. I was the doctor in charge of all emergency departments in Princestown, Couva, and San Fernando, and Point Fortin Hospital. I used to coordinate the emergency admissions of all of these, and therefore I used to get very important data from the health centers in terms of throughput and all this sort of thing. So we were actually, even that time, understanding what we were talking about here, that the extended hours now, after you extend it, it became congested just as in the normal hours. In other words, then what happened, instead of having less people, you just had more people, and you had the same amount of consultation time. In fact, it was the same thing, if you understand what I'm saying. So instead of having 200 people, you saw 300 people, but it was the same time you spent with the person because you continue to give the same care. What it was different is that a person with an emergency could have come in the extended hours, right? And that helped them to get access to care. So it did help some, and it did at least make some impact on the admissions to the emergency rooms, which is the San Fernando Hospital, the Point Fortin Hospital, right? And the emergency departments at Princestown and Couva. So there were some impact with the extended hours during that time, but it was not effective, because what happened, it became congested. It became the same utilization rate was, instead of having it in 8 hours, it went to about 10 hours. So in other words, and what it did tell us then, which is what we talked about in this program, what Gary is talking about, the basics in managing the healthcare systems, we have to apply that. We have to do a process. You have to do a mapping of all the processes, or remapping. You have to do some process re-engineering, right? You have to look at the persons who own the processes and train them, right? We have to put in the standard operating procedures so we can begin measuring these performance, right, of the persons who are responsible for these processes. We have to put in the key indicators in all the service lines as well as the other areas of healthcare management. It has to feed that information up to the board of directors and the ministers and, of course, the government and cabinet. And we have to use AI to assist that whole process, to make it seamless, to make it easy, and to make it affordable. But it also aligns with the fourth industrial age, where we have more younger people living in our communities. We have people more using the smartphones. We have people getting information from Google, etc. So what we might have to do is to use these information channels and just modify the message a little bit so that they can actually have better healthcare. Is a program. It is a healthcare management strategy.
Yeah, not to mention the accuracy levels improving a lot. Cutting out mistakes and so on along the way. So you're getting better care, better delivery.
You play with human life, so every opportunity to eliminate a mistake we should take that opportunity.
Yeah.
But the thing about it is the only way you make people care for what they're doing is where they're being held accountable instead of just being.
Correct. And you're using the scientific tools, right? The evidence-based healthcare. For example, in Canada, if I don't do an HbA1c, right, I cannot get my prescription refilled for my diabetes.
Over here too. It's the same.
If after 3 months I can't show that I am making an impact in my HbA1c, they would call me back in because it means I'm not compliant with my medicine or something is not working.
Your insurance calls you here if I don't go and get my stress.
That's what I was asking someone before. You heard me?
Yeah.
Yeah, the pharmaceutical management now, they call you to go over your medicine and all this stuff, right?
Yes.
That's what I was about to ask you.
Yeah, they do that. All these insurance guys, they call you now to find out, how you're doing and so on. You're getting your medicine on time. The whole shenanigans, they tell you, hey, you have not done your A1C testing for the last 6 months. What's going on? Come and get a $25, gift certificate.
We could actually streamline our medications budget, right? Or prescription budget, because I'm telling you, there's a lot of wastage of medications out there because our diabetics in our clinics, our hypertensives, our heart people and cardiac people with ischemic heart disease, they run into thousands and thousands in these health centers, and we don't have the facilities or I don't know why they're not doing the HbA1c, because we don't have the chemicals or we don't have the budget. But what is it? The reason for that is that things are running by rote. In other words, and they're happening automatic. So everything just runs automatic. So if you begin to manage the healthcare now, you'll say, oh my God, wait, hold on. If I begin to spend more money on the HbA1c testing, and I can bring in some key stakeholders in the community, like Rotary clubs and whatever, who could help fund some of the testing, because I will have to come out and say, well, I only have a certain amount of money. I can actually spend a little more money on doing the HbA1c, but I can save millions of dollars in medications that I'm buying and giving out, where people are just packing them in their homes in packets. They have these medications just there doing that. That's money. So if just doing one HbA1c test can save me hundreds of dollars in medicine a month, I mean, that is the way to go, because that's how Canada has gone. That's how Europe has gone. That's how North America. Why in Trinidad and Tobago, where we have such a high incidence of diabetes and hypertension and strokes and cardiac disease in a young population, even obesity is a big problem here now. It's happening now. Why it is that we don't have this in place? So 10 years have gone, and we don't have the HbA1c testing as a. You go to a health center, you have to have a HbA1 test before the doctor even prescribes more medications for you.
That's a tool. That's a yardstick now to measure. You could work backwards.
What time frame is the blood work getting back to people?
Now all of this is another thing. You see, because you can have that done perfectly. In fact, right now you have kits that could do the HbA1c, like your glucose testing and your cholesterol testing. Now, the machines are there.
I'm talking about the lab.
You could know what I'm saying is that it could be point of care testing. You could do them in the health centers right there. The person comes in, goes for HbA1c, and within a few hours you get an understanding of what is going on. You see, so within a day, you should be able to get your results. I get my results. I do my blood test in the morning in the lab, and then by afternoon, I get my result. So which means that if you now have people could carry those to the main labs if you want, or you could listen to me. You could contract the services from private labs. I mean, there are people who don't mind getting 500 of those. If it costs you the same to do it in your lab, whether the government likes it or not. It costs almost the same. Might be cheaper to just get it from the private sector and get a private partnership.
We have a few of these private labs that are functioning in Trinidad.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I say to bring them together, right? Look at the number of diabetics you have in each one of our municipalities, right? Each one of our regional health authorities, right? Begin to zone them, right? Get a nice operating cost. Negotiate, man. If I given you 100 blasted tests every month, you think you wouldn't negotiate and say, okay, well, I'll do it for 10% less? You know what I mean? So the point about it is that negotiate, because the same thing is costing you. In fact, it costs you more in the hospital because you have more staff, right? You have to buy the chemicals with all the tendering processes, and then you think it's costing you cheaper, right? So the thing about it is that I think these are some of the things that we can do to actually make an impact on and reduce the number of people coming into hospital, right, for the complications of diabetes and hypertension.
Especially down the road, 10 years down the road, looking at amputations and all these things.
And we're looking at your cardiac cath lab.
Yes.
So I mean, to send somebody to India to do heart surgery and all this sort of thing, it'll cost the government quite a lot of money, right? So if you could start working on the HbA1c alone, that could put a dent in that in 5 years' time.
Yeah, the savings and medication cost, it will far outweigh, the advantages of just doing that A1.
And Gary, these things could be done next week. You understand what I'm saying? These things could be done next week. Once the board got appointed in the RHAs, right? One of the first things they have to do is to, one, revise the strategic plan and business plan of the RHAs, right? The first thing is they have to pull that on the table and find out what exactly is the business plan. Check the section on stakeholder engagement.
Right.
Yeah. Check to see what are the MOUs and MOAs that could be done. Bring in the legal department, right? Sit down with them, right? Draft proper MOUs and MOAs. Get the minister, get the cabinet to approve all of these at the level of the ministry, and begin to look at the cost-effective approach to engaging the private sector, right, and doing some of these things at the point of very close to where the patients are. No need for them to journey to San Fernando Hospital to get a lab and get the blood test and wait a whole day, and then the results get lost, and all of these things, because the whole medical record system is in a mess in the hospitals. You understand? And they don't even have results that could be posted on a computer and gotten at any point of where a person point to get back the result right away, within a day, just like if somebody would send an email. They don't have that within the system. It doesn't exist. I'm not asking, I'm telling you. So
again, last time my sister had the same problem. She's waiting, if you went to do her blood test, waiting a month and a half to get the results. A month and a half to get the results from your blood test.
Yeah.
I told her, hey, Carla, I do my blood test here, and it's in my chart the next day. My chart, Mount Sinai.
I have a testing to test my sugar. When I go to the clinic in Canada, the guy takes it and puts it in a computer, and he has every single test I do for the past 3 months. And he looks at it and says,
all these things show up on
and he looks at it and says, Doc, I see for a week your sugar was really high. You know what I mean? And all of this is because I'm testing it. And that is the only way I can get my prescription refilled, because it shows that I'm doing my testing. You see? Now, are these things impossible to do here? Because right now you could do it on your phone, and you could take that and send it to the main health sector, like the health center, where somebody could be you hire your young activists and whatever, hire them in the health centers to begin to pull the data from all your patients now and start giving it to the doctor. So by the time the doctor sits down in that 5 minutes which he normally spends now and just prescribes, he already has it in front of his computer that you are not taking your medicine. And that is by just a phone app that the person can load up the results, or the lab could send the results to that app, And even if it doesn't get transmitted to the health center, when he walks to the health center with his phone, all it takes is for him to open the app and you have your results there. You know? And I'm not telling you this is impossible, and I have this on my phone. This is as soon as I do the result and I go to any doctor in Canada as an emergency, they can pull up my results.
And this is a low-hanging fruit we can implement back home.
Of course.
There's
really fast.
no change in cost. This thing is there's no change in cost.
Yeah, because you have open source, you have your computer, you have your WhatsApp, you have your apps now. You could even buy apps to do these now. All the RHA has to do now is they have to encrypt it, right? They have to put in the necessary security things that people, you know what I mean? So that it doesn't get hacked. So there are certain things that the IT department will have to do. And I mean, come on, man, these things, I mean, these are things that we have to do now, Gary.
Again, you see, it all depends on the vision of these boards that they appoint, and each chairman of these boards, and also the board of other directors in the boards. If they do not have this forward-thinking approach, it might be the same.
They're going to be out in fires, right?
Yes, correct.
That is what's going to happen. I mean, I'm not even asking you. I'm predicting. I'm not even predicting.
I say the same thing. No. Been saying the same thing. That will take at least a year or two just
they're going to be out in the fires, because what they're going to be doing, they're going to be starting with dengue, and very soon with the rainy season, you're going to be looking at flooding. They're going to have the dengue, the chikungunya, and all of these things. So spraying, they're going to be spraying like crazy all over the place. When public education, information about water, the public health department, the Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development. Listen, there's a law called the Public Nuisance Law. The Public Nuisance Law is if there's any unoccupied land or property that is not taken care of, a notice goes to the owner. If the owner doesn't clean that property within a certain time, the ministry cleans it up and sends the cost to the owner. Right? Or they could actually have to go to court for it, because they could be served a notice, right, by the CMOH. Now, this also helps with crime. In other words, then listen, all these fellas living in all these dilapidated buildings and smoking in the night and doing their weed and activities nocturnally and things, clean all those places, get rid of all those dilapidated buildings from the time that. So you see, this is where fighting crime, you have the softer aspects, right? That these are things that could help the police. There are a lot of these properties, right, that needs to be cleaned, and all those old buildings removed and all this sort of thing. These are some of the things that they have to do, especially high crime areas and high risk areas, right? So things must be done in a sort of holistic way, right, addressing issues that are crossing each of the ministries.
But exactly what you're saying, this 2 years is just out in fire. The third year is the end of the board term. Normally the boards are there for 3 years.
Yeah.
So what new innovation can they bring in year 3? And that's a question. So don't expect anything too much.
Yeah.
At least in this session, this first 3 years, for these boards coming in. Now, especially if the chairman of these boards and so on don't have the vision and where you're going to take the whole health, scenario, where you want to take it forward, how much, how far, if they have the competency to do that. I see it exactly. They just out in fires and treated the current issues that are going to crop up.
Yeah,
and that's it. As far as
you can't make that judgment yet, Suman.
No,
yeah, I see this boy, Anil Gosain is at the Southwest. He used to be a CEO before. He worked closely with when Lakram Bodo, Dr. Minister Bodo used to be the chairman of the board. So I see that. I see Anand Chattergoon he used to be a medical director there. He is also on the board. Right. I saw the Eastern board has about 4 doctors. I'm not sure if they're medical doctors. I know 1 or 2 of them are medical doctors, GPs actually. One, I think the chairman is a GP. So it will be interesting. I mean, they have people who know about medicine, but as Sumant is saying, I do feel that some boards will be like. I mean, I know Anil. He used to be the CEO of the RHA. So as I said, we said before, we are hopeful, we are supportive, we are ready. We're ready. Yeah, we're ready to give advice whenever it is needed.
Yes.
Whenever they need it. We anticipate that the way the politics is, that they have a lot of fires to out right now because of what PNM did or didn't do. We stand ready to support them. We are not criticizing them in the sense they are young ministers. Some of them, Dr. Buru in health has been very experienced. He has gone through the storm, so to speak, and I know him personally, and I know he is going to do a good job. He has what he has to do. So Matthew helped a lot with the manifesto and whatever. So
and I also, he's my neighbor opposite. We were studying together all through A levels, O levels, and so.
Right. So I think that we are in a good position. It's not that, I mean, I hope that the people listening don't get the feeling that we are criticizing or anything. We are being positive, but we're also being objective. And I feel that I know for a fact when the other boards are created, then we could sit down and say, well, okay, I think that in looking at the boards, we do have that level of competency there. So that some of the things that we are saying, it could be an easier job. Yeah. So then we'll say, okay, fine. Right. So we can always, say, Lux, okay, I think we're looking good. I think a lot will be done. If there's anything you need for us to help you with, we could help you. We do feel.
Your observation, you reach out to them.
Yeah. I mean, clearly we will say, well, we think that whilst we're spending a lot of money on the engagements, such as, the Indian and all the other things providing the tertiary healthcare for babies or children or cardiac patients or cath labs, all of those are very good. We fully support them. In fact, I am a patient who might land up in a cath lab if I'm not careful. So I really would love that. I want to see our pre-hospital care. I mean, I want to be able to know when I get my heart attack, I could be, I'll be able to survive, to at least come back home and, say goodbye to my relatives and you reach the hospital where something could be done, So I want all of those for my friends, for my family, from anybody who might be visiting me for the holidays, etc. I want Trinidad and Tobago to be on the map as one of the places where, in addition to reducing the crime, we're also improving the health, eventually health tourism, where people could come down here and spend some time in Tobago and get 6 months rehabilitation after getting hip surgery here or whatever in the tropics, and they don't have to be in the cool, in the winter months and things. So tourism and healthcare will be one of the things in the future. Robotic surgery is fine, but I mean, you need to have rehabilitation. Come down here and
we need a competent management system in place.
Yeah.
People will be held accountable, be supervised.
Yeah.
And be supervised in a fashion that
but for these things to really, you have to build your reputation over time. You have to build your reputation. People will not come here like how Colombia is. Colombia is one of the leading countries for stem cells in the region, even better than here in Miami. A lot of US.
We could do it at a better cost. But what I'm saying to you is that you have
to build your reputation first.
And management of how we go about things.
Yeah.
Where we catch something, the response to correct it before it gets worse must be swift.
Yeah. So I think quickly, in terms of going forward, it's 12 o'clock already almost. So I think quickly, the things that we could definitely do is firstly, right, let them elect the boards, let them start the operations, let them begin to do the needs assessment, in terms of each of the RHAs.
All the gap analysis too.
Of the gap analysis, correct. And then let us see what they are going, what are some of the programs. We will support them fully. If they ask us to help them in any way, we will. Right, sooner or later, right, we would like to see things like the key measurements like the HbA1c to help with the moving forward. They want to hire doctors. I think they said they're going to come up with some ways where they could bring the doctors in. I have a feeling this is one of the ways, so that they can come into maybe the ambulance system. They could come into the call center, right? They could come into the home visits, right? The home healthcare, bring healthcare to the house.
And the school system as well.
Right, they can have the doctors in the schools as well, right? All of this is working hand in hand with national security, right? So they could also be approaching the resilience building in terms of disaster preparedness. I know that Khadija in local government has a very high priority item, and she's doing a wonderful job. So no, we could talk, we're not going against anybody. We are supportive. I think
No,
we have young ministers. They're young and they're vibrant. They're capable. Hopefully, as soon as they settle down, hopefully they'll reach a stage where subject matter experts, not just us but other persons, and we talked about this before through this forum, right? And we can bring in more subject matter experts who could be able to lend our assistance as we go forward. What we want to see is not just 5 years of governance. We want to see 10, 15 years of governance. That will give us a lot of time to implement programs. When Kamla Prasad Bisesa was in People's Partnership, the country was thriving. It was beautiful. Coming into Trinidad and Tobago, there was a sense of, it was almost like we were.
Expectation. Well, this
Yeah,
is the thing.
it was like a little, it was like a
My
little Miami. It was like if you're going to Miami in the Caribbean, people was coming
Yeah,
from the
my
Caribbean.
expectation. I coming home next month, and my expectation. Boy, I'm feeling
Yeah.
good. I want
Yeah.
to feel better.
Yes, so I think with her there, and I mean we will definitely move forward. I think the guys, I met with them, a good bit of them. They were very cordial, right? Maybe except one, but everybody was cordial and everybody was gracious, and they were happy to see me, and I felt good. So I feel that we'll be working with them. I feel they will listen to us. It just takes some time. One person called me yesterday and said, Dr. Ramrup, I think the better thing you have to do now is to just keep quiet, shut up, right? And eventually, you'll get something to help the government with. I say, okay, right. So I kind of don't know what to do right now. If to just shut up, say
Yeah.
anything, or because maybe whatever I keep saying, it might get back and it might hurt me, because somebody might go back and say, well, Ramrup say, you want to be the advisor to the health. I didn't say that. I really didn't say that. What I'm trying to say is one of the solutions, to going forward would be to have an overarching person like how you have it in America, United States, where you have a surgeon general who has management capabilities to manage the whole thing. So this is the kind of thing. Until you don't have that, then you should have somebody who has that ability, like an executive coach, to work with the ministry, not the ministers, with the ministry and the CMO, to build that competency and capability within the ministry and the RHAs. That's what we say.
Yeah. And that might be the same pattern for a couple of the other ministries.
Correct. I think so. Crime too. I think crime.
Exactly.
I think crime needs to have a person with skills in crime, in the criminal criminal competencies, who
And
work
must
with
be
the-
their objective.
Yeah.
And this is the thing, the objective, they don't say the nice things when they want to hear. No. I hate that. I want you to tell me something different, which I don't know.
Yeah.
You know?
I think I agree with you. I think that is something that should be done within national security, because it's the biggest problem we have right now. In fact, in the whole pie chart that we have, I think if you look at where our priorities are, number one, security. Number two, healthcare. Number three, forex and foreign exchange, in terms of the whole country, in terms of the economics. And I would say that will be linked in with the refinery and whatever, And I
Yes.
think that those are the three
At
main
least for
things.
this first year
Yeah.
of operate, and then you switch, you extend that, and you add now education and social
Yes, correct.
service.
So all of those things,
along those
they're
lines.
doing their own thing. Those things can be, I mean, right now the priority and everything should be focused a lot on those, but you should also be in the other areas. But at this point in time, those are our three key main
Yep.
problems.
Yeah.
So
And
see?
we can measure it at the end of the year. We can say X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
Right? So
Yeah.
we can measure it as well.
Yeah. Good.
Anyway, Gary, I think it's like midnight. That's call it a day.
All right, guys.
Or
Thank
call
you
it a
very
night.
much for taking all that time, Dr. Rambo.
No. These are useful things, and I'm sure we all
Like I say,
learn on
it's
the road.
going to be here for as long as the internet is and the World Wide Web is available. It's going to be up here, so that it's documented the advice we have given, and we are also
Nice.
educating the people to understand
Yeah,
the
Gary.
direction we're heading in, so that when PNM jump up and try to insinuate all these negative things to cause people to try to destabilize the government, the facts are here, where we are educating the people on where we are heading, And it doesn't matter what color and race and size our citizens are. We are here about all citizens of the
No.
country. Our Prime
And
Minister has
that,
that objective, and no matter what they say, the truth. We must make sure that we bring the truth forward and what our objective is. So that way, I would say thank you everyone for listening. Thank you, Dr. Rambo, and
okay, Gary. Take care.
Take care.
Thanks.
All
we'll
right,
catch
guys.
up.
See you
Thank
all.
you.
Take care. Bye.
Yeah, take care.